The presence of some of my colleagues here, the representative of FAO who is with us, WFP is also here, and I would like to thank UNFPA and NTV for associating us to this event. Talking about women as change agents in socio-economic development of Uganda is something that is very critical for UN Women because this agency within the UN system is responsible for supporting women in various fields, including political, economical, fighting violence against women, and involving women in peace and security processes, and also ensuring that the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, are achieved with leaving no one behind. And as you usually know, the people further behind in the society are unfortunately women. So I want to address, just to kick the ball rolling, a couple of issues that will demonstrate the situation of women in the Ugandan social and economic life. First of all, let me talk about governance. The MD of NTV just quickly mentioned the question of representation of women in governance systems in Uganda. The reason why we talk about governance, even though this meeting is about economic and social development, is because no matter what progress you do in your little corner in Uganda, it will not be sustainable if the political environment and the policy environment does not support it. That's why we have to match all the time economic and social development with political participation, to ensure that women's involvement in policy makes policy more social and more economically sound. In Uganda, at the last election, you will notice that it's 69% of women who went out to vote as compared to 77% of men, which denotes some kind of difference between men and women in terms of the act of going to vote. And in terms of representation, we mentioned the affirmative action, but what we monitor at UN Women is to see if there was no affirmative action, what would have been the position of women in Uganda. And the position is 8%. Because the non-affirmative positions in the MP election, women got 8% of the seats compared to 92% for men. Which means that the Ugandan government, the Ugandan country is right in maintaining the affirmative action, due to which we now have 35% of women in parliament. And in government, we have 36% of women as cabinet ministers. So it shows how much we still have to go in terms of ensuring that women participate equally in decision making. And when we talk about decision making, we are talking about social decision making, economic decision making as well. So it's not about politics. The second area that I want to look at is agricultural development. I'm happy the FAO rep is here. Uganda has 80% of arable land, which is the land that you can cultivate, and at the moment it's only 35% that is in use. And the sector contributes to 21% of GDP and 46% of the export earning of Uganda. And what we notice is that employment in Uganda is due 72% is in the agricultural sector, and in that sector you have 80% of women, which means that women form the bulk of the agricultural employment, which is the main one in Uganda. Unfortunately, women in agricultural sector, they are informal agricultural sector, they lack land, they lack the financing, they lack technology, and they lack information in terms of weather, climate information, etc., etc. And also, they also lack market, and I'm coming to market later. But the last thing I want to say about agriculture is the aging of the agricultural population. The people involved in agriculture, in a study by FAO showed that the average age is around 60. which means that we are yet to introduce more young people into agriculture if we want to improve the productivity of the agricultural sector. How do we support women to emerge as agricultural agents is critical if we want to improve their participation in the economy. Let's talk about business, since I talked about market earlier for agriculture. But I want to look at business in general. You will realize, for instance, that in Uganda, 33% of businesses belong to women. And we have been very generous, including all of the informal businesses and etc. into it. But it shows that women are not business owners as much as men. And the businesses that they own are businesses that are informal, and they are in the rural sector. The informal sector and the rural sector are the least productive in the country when you look at the productivity in those sectors. And I have already talked about the things that they need. Particularly markets. We know that government, for instance, spend 51% of its budget on procurement. So the question is, when government buys, where does it buy? Is it from women-owned businesses or is it from men-owned businesses? So this is also critical to ensure that the capacity of women to accumulate income is promoted. I will not dwell on that. I will talk to the fourth point, which is education. And when we talk about education, we are looking at life skills here. We are not just talking about the formal education, but what is the capacity of women to contribute, for instance, for this country to capture the demographic dividend. If we want to develop the human capital to improve the capacity of women to qualitatively contribute to the economy, what is the quality of these women? What are the skills that they are supposed to be mastering? And what are their capacity to remove the barriers that prevent them from contributing to that economy? And those barriers, as you all know, are social barriers. You know, being able to control their own life, being able to become pregnant when they want and not when the family wants, because the family is not responsible for all the time for their development. I'm talking about the large family, but their own family. How do they manage their own family, having the number of children? The education has proven to be critical in that. The next point is ICT. And I'm not talking about too much because you know that the young people are interested in ICT, and this is the juncture where we need to congratulate the Ugandan government for efforts that is being made to facilitate access to computer items and technology. The last 2 points that I want to make quickly because my 15 minutes end, one of them is the pay gap. The pay gap in Uganda is very, very critical. What we call pay gap is the difference of salary between a man and a woman for the same capacity and the same job. People don't realize it, but in fact, in Uganda, the average pay gap is 90,000. So when you have like average salary of men and average salary of women in Uganda for the same capacity, the same job, the difference is 90,000. And it's 100,000 outside of agricultural job and 30,000 in the agricultural sector. And the average is 90,000. I will not talk about it too much. You know why. The reason why people pay women less is because women are responsible for reproductive life. When they ask for permission to go to the hospital, they ask for permission to go to this, to take the kids. So the employers find that, am I losing by recruiting a woman? Okay, let me remove a little bit of her salary so that I can pay when she goes on maternity leave, etc., etc. But is the woman taking care of her own child, or is she taking care of the child of the whole community, of the husband? So the question becomes critical. How do we ensure that while the woman is facing reproductive responsibility, she doesn't suffer from it as a result? So this is something that we need to look at. The last thing I want to talk is a little bit linked to that, which is the unpaid care work. When people are sick in the family, it's the women that is expected to take care of the person. So all of the social responsibility of women in the household. And let me share one figure with you quickly. In a week in Uganda, men spend 12 hours on unpaid care work. And when you say unpaid care work, it's like cutting the grass, clothes, painting the wall, things that he does in the house without being paid. And women spend 30 hours compared to 12 hours for men. Now, if you compare 12 and 30, you say, oh, it's almost half. Unfortunately, it's more than half, because what we do is that women also do multitasking. And we have this statistical problem in assessing the care work of women in the house. Because when you do the survey, the man will say, I did 3 hours. But during that 3 hours, she's doing one thing every hour. The woman will say, I did 5 hours. But during those 5 hours, every hour she's doing 3 or 4 things. So if you have to multiply, it will be like more than 24 hours in a day. So we know that the 30 hours that we statistically count is less than what they actually do. Meanwhile, the 12 hours that we count for the men are real 12 hours because they only do one thing at a time. Let me conclude here by saying that to promote women's involvement in the economy, as they rightfully, Uganda's majority are women. So if every country in the world is jumping in a race with 2 feet, and then we are jumping in the same rate with only 1 foot, it's likely that we are not going to go very far. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Another round of applause for Dr. Maxime. You know, the statistics are quite worrying, and I think we need to, it's good that you're having this conversation, just changing the narrative. You can imagine a majority of women, and they always say, and statistics show that this matters to do with agriculture, and that's our strength as Ugandans. But only 27% of owned agricultural land is owned by women. So women only own 27%. And they're the people who put in the labor, but they have little or no say with regards to the produce of this land, with regards to the selling of this produce. And so that narrative has to change. And you talked about care work. You can imagine the disparity. A week, 12 hours for men, and for us it's 30 hours, and it's actually more because we multitask. I think it's amazing that you're having this narrative. So at this point in time, we are joined by someone special today. She is representing our, great representative today. She is representing Honorable Janet Mukwaya, the Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development, and I'm talking about none other than the AG Commissioner Gender and Community Affairs, Miss Maggie Chomukama. Take the center stage. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you all. Apologies for coming late. As Dr. Maxime was outlining, we are multitasking this morning. And I got a call from my Honorable Minister, who is in Omoro District. I hope you all know where that is. Actually, sub-region. She's monitoring projects and programs of the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. So she asked me to be here. Otherwise, I was on my way to another meeting. But I am really very honored and pleased to be here. She sends her regards and looks forward to a great dialogue and a good outcome. So let me stick to the written text so that I don't go off, and then I'll add in my own additional words. I'm Maggie Chomukama, the Assistant Commissioner in charge of Gender and Women Affairs at the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. The UNFPA representative, UN Women, representatives of the diplomatic community, ministries, government departments, distinguished panelists, the keynote speaker, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning once again. I'm pleased to be here today at this Generation for Generation Dialogue, the second in a series that UNFPA and NTV Uganda has put together. I welcome this initiative on behalf of government, bringing together young people, middle-aged, and we prefer to call them older persons, to engage in dialogue. It is critical to tap into the respective energies of the age groups in order to generate ideas and solutions that can contribute to social change and in the long term to socio-economic transformation of Uganda and to our national development. I am particularly pleased to note that the theme, Uganda's Women as Game Changers for Socio-Economic Development, focuses on the transformative potential of Ugandan women. You all know they are 52% of this population. This is very much in line with our NDP2, which states that attainment of gender equality and women's empowerment is a prerequisite for accelerated socioeconomic transformation. And I should add, this is also emphasized in the Uganda Gender Policy of 2007. So as Government of Uganda, we are determined to make good of our pledge to leave no one behind, so as to ensure that women are catered for in our development plans. We are also taking measures to address the underlying causes of gender inequalities. We have therefore put in place a number of policies, strategies, programs. I'll just name a few. You are all aware of the Uganda Gender Policy as the overall guiding framework. The Uganda Women Entrepreneurship Program, as I told you, right now the Honorable Minister is monitoring how that is progressing, and I'll just give you a few statistics. As we stand now, this is now 3.5 years. We started that program. It's a program that gives affordable credit to women groups. And since it began, we now have, let me see where I've put this, Since we began in 2015, government has invested over 56 billion shillings in this program. We have over 120,873 women engaged in economic activities and 9,552 groups that are undertaking entrepreneurship development. So those are some of the programs. Under the Youth Livelihood Program, again also extending affordable credit to youth, 45% of beneficiaries are female youth who are doing incredible work. We have guided the establishment of gender-based violence shelters. We are promoting girls' education. We are engaged in agricultural transformation through skilling and transfer of the of wealth creation inputs to for livelihoods to families. And as you know, women are at the center of agricultural production, where the majority of Ugandans engage. Now, we know that women shoulder the primary responsibility for childcare. As Dr. Maxim has pointed out, we still have challenges of markets for agricultural produce. We still have challenges in reproductive health and care, gender-based violence, and other forms of violence, early marriage, female genital mutilation. Our Minister of State, Honorable Mutuzo, was in Amdat, I think last week, for the Zero Tolerance Day. And again, she reiterated government's commitment to end this form of violence. Adolescent girls still drop out of school. But in order to better meet the needs of Ugandan women and girls and men and boys, we need to strengthen our public services, infrastructure, and social protection systems using innovative approaches to respond to the constraints that are faced, some of which have been highlighted, and I'm sure we will hear from the panelists. And women know best what they need to participate in, to benefit from, in terms of economic and social development in their communities. So it is our task as duty bearers to listen and foster creative, fresh initiatives that promote the highest level of participation of Uganda's women in defining the future we want as a country. We are therefore extremely pleased as Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development to be part of this process, and On behalf of the Honourable Minister, who is not here, we reiterate our commitment to the goal of gender equality and the empowerment of women, and we continue we pledge that the government of Uganda, led by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, will continue to foster the strong and supportive legal and policy framework that has been ushered in by the NRM government, so that in the end, all of us have a win-win situation and we can have gender concerns in the policies, plans and programs across all sectors for socio-economic and sustainable development of our country. I'd like to stop here and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Maggie Chomukama, for your submission. Thank you so much. A round of applause for her again as she goes to sit. So just to bring you up to speed, you who is at home or wherever you are watching us today, this is the Generation for Generation Dialogue, courtesy of NTV Uganda and UNFPA. It is the second edition, and today's focus is on the Ugandan women's contribution, them as the game changers of social economic development. All right, that's the conversation that you're having today right here, and we are at the Serena Hotel. We have the different generations. It's just not a name, all right? So the different generations are actually represented right here, and you can be part of our conversations. The hashtag is G4GUG. How are we, by the way, tweeted? Let me ask that. Who has tweeted? There's a prize. Who has tweeted? Who has tweeted? Who has tweeted? Let's get onto Twitter and tweet. Let's promote this conversation, all right? So this is the time where the rubber meets the road. Do you have your starter packs? Yes? Can I borrow yours? Let's just... Do you have this? Do you have this? Yeah? Do you have this? I want to hear a stronger yes. Do we have this? Yes. This is a starter pack for today's conversation. And there's something very important right here. And this. So I want to see if you have this. I want to see. Great. So we have an interesting panel today, and we are going to have authentic conversations. We're not going to filter anything because we need change, okay? So if you agree, when the conversation is, underway, if you agree to anything that has been said, instead of clapping your hands or stomping your feet, just do this. If it's a yes, let's see that you are concurrent or agreeing with what has been said. If you have alternative options or do not agree with what has been said, a no is what we need to see, okay? And the moderator, Mr. Patrick Kamara, will take note of that, and it's going to be a dialogue. As much as we're having the panel, you also are paramount, and this is for you, okay? So I'll actually invite Mr. Patrick Kamara to take the stage at this point in time, introduce the panelists, and we start on our conversation this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mala Kivila Odera. A round of applause to her. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, our guests of honor, for turning up for this very important dialogue, Generation for Generation Dialogue. My name is Patrick Kamara, and my job today is to share the discussion whereby we hope we shall be adding value to the lives of all of us Ugandans, the different generations. And we've heard at the beginning that we have different generations. We have the judges or the grannies, we have the parents, and maybe we have their children in this auditorium. And we want to discuss, to be able to find out where we can give solutions to the problems we face, how we can move as a country together. There are those who believe that our best times as a country, or our golden era, was in the 1960s, when our education was good, when our agriculture was robust, when our culture was strong, and everything was pointing to a good direction. Somehow in the 70s and 80s, there are those who say that was our worst time as a country. We are having wars, we are having coups, we are having diseases, and we sank down low. But also there are people who believe that we got a new renewal in 1986, that now we are back in the game. But we face problems, we face challenges, because the biggest challenge now, I suppose, could be unemployment. But there are people in this auditorium who think unemployment can be there, but they have some kind of ingenuity of doing things differently, and they are creating employment and helping and solving problems in their localities. We have a young generation, and that generation, if we harness it well, perhaps we can build our country and build our region. And God has placed us in one of the best places on earth. In fact, in 1905, British Prime Minister, when he was dazzled by the beauty of this country, he named us the Pearl of Africa. I wonder if he was to come today, whether he would still say that truly Uganda is the Pearl of Africa. We seem to have mismanaged things, but all is not lost. We can still turn things around, because the millennials have shown us, using application and technology, that this country can be redeemed, that we can move faster, and we can contribute to the global economy using our own ingenuity. I'm going to be introducing our panelists who have done so many things and have solved so many problems, but also are making money in their different localities. They will be an example to us in the room and an example to those who are watching across this country. So allow me to invite one by one the different panelists. There are different generations as well and doing different things. I'm going to begin by one of our panelists who is the Director of Law and Advocacy for Women in Uganda, a seasoned advocate of the High Court who possesses a bachelor's degree in law from Makerere University, a postgraduate diploma in legal practice from the Law Development Center, and a master's degree in law from Georgetown University in the United States. He's also an international consultant with expertise in human rights, social justice, governance, gender analysis, women, peace and security, gender-based violence training, and capacity building. Welcome with me, ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, Honorable Dora Christine Kanabahita Byamukama. Our next panelist is Ricky Papa Thompson, is the co-founder of Safe Border, a company whose aim is to modernize informal transportation and ensure safe access to mobility. A former security guard and a border rider, Ricky Papa teamed up with 2 colleagues to start Safe Border in 2014. The main focus to train and provide riders with safety equipment and connect them to customers using a hotline. In addition, a mobile application to improve customer experience and enable customers to request a professional rider was created. Welcome with me, with a round of applause, Ricky Papa Thompson. Ladies and gentlemen, our next panelist is a carpenter and the Chief Executive Officer of V Interiors Limited, a furniture and manufacturing business. She has over 10 years experience working in carpentry, marketing, interior design, and community development through skilling. She is the founder of the Awaka Foundation that supports landmine survivors and victims through technical training skills. Our panelist is Evelyn Zalwango. Ladies and gentlemen, our next panelist is the Chief of Staff of Simba Group of Companies and the founder of Musana Cuts, a company that provides urban street vendors with cleaner, safer, and more efficient solutions for their storage and financing needs. In 2016, our panelist was named by the World Economic Forum as a top African innovator, and in 2018 was named one of the Forbes 30 Under 30 for Africa. She's launching the ENAGROW, offering business and financial training programs for rural entrepreneurs. Our panelist this morning is Natalie Bitature. And last but not least, our panelist is the Executive Director of Malengo Foundation, a youth-inspired and youth-led organization. She is a disability rights and inclusion activist, advocating for sustainable development goals with an inclination to Global Goal 10 for reduced inequalities. She's an author and philanthropist dedicated to the socio-economic transformation of young people on the continent. Our panelist is Michelle Mamateker. Okay, another round of applause to our panelists. These are people who are going to be speaking to us, and they have expertise in different areas, but also they know so much. And we're going to hear from them. This is what's going to happen. I'll give them a couple of minutes, or each one of them, to make their case. And then after, you'll interact with them in some form of a plenary. And should you disagree with them, let us respect each other, especially when we disagree. But I hope we're not going to disagree. And if you want to contribute after they have made their case, you'll put up your hand. I'll see where you're seated. Maybe I'll mention you by the color of your garment, or if I know your name, I'll say your name. And please be precise and concise so that we can have many views coming in from the audience here. And let me begin with Honorable Dora Christine Kanabahita Byamukama. And because you've been a leader, you've been a member of parliament in Uganda, a member of parliament in the East African Legislative Assembly, and you are also a member of parliament not only through the affirmative action, but you actually went and raced against men and won them. So you have a lot to teach the young politicians, the young leaders, but also those who are into entrepreneurship. Dora Byamukama. What do we need to do to help the young people today, the women, the challenges they face, create an employment and add value to their lives? We could press there.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Dora Byamukama, as you have heard. And I'd like to start off by thanking you for inviting me to this panel discussion. And my role here today is really to speak as an elder, and I'd like to talk about my leadership experience, in particular in the Parliament of Uganda, as well as in the East African Legislative Assembly. So connected to what we are discussing today, my question to you again is, what is your dream? What is your dream? Because if you don't have a dream, then you aren't working towards something. As a young person, I grew up in the southwestern part of Uganda, which is also known as the Switzerland of Africa. And my mother was my role model. She'd go out to talk to the young people and to the mothers, because she was working for the Church of Uganda. And as I traveled the terrain with her, I saw very young mothers. I saw girls as young as 12 years carrying children on their backs, some as young as 14 years. And I kept on asking her, are those their brothers? Are those their sisters? And sometimes she'd say no, that was her child. That made me think a lot. I had the privilege and opportunity of being born of two parents who are teachers, and they encouraged me very much in life. So growing up in that kind of terrain, I got to understand that I had a role to play in the community, and I was privileged to serve as a member of parliament. Now, when it comes to joining politics and the girl child and women, there are several challenges. The first challenge is courage. And this goes to the issue of self-esteem. How do you view yourself? Are you bold enough to stand up and say, vote for me? And more precisely, why should anybody vote for you? So these are cardinal points. Beyond the money, beyond whatever else, putting yourself out there requires belief in yourself. So today I've come to share with you this particular point on the issue of self-esteem and confidence. In Uganda, and as women everywhere, we have some kind of mental slavery. We need to emancipate ourselves. It begins with us. And I'm glad I'm talking to the media, because sometimes the media is the biggest challenge that a woman has. How will she be portrayed? If she's single, why is she single? If she's married, who is she married to? And how is she married? If she's widowed, what happened? So you kind of can't win. And if you stand in a place where you're not born, You're not even a son of the soil. So who are you? What's your citizenship? These are some of the challenges that we need to overcome as women. But more importantly, one of the things that I really stood for in the campaign was the message. I had a very clear message. I am standing on a seat which is for everybody. It's not only for men. I had to do some training. I'm not coming on affirmative action. I'm coming in as of my own right as a woman. Whereas the men could walk and move faster, I had to first do some civic education. And I'd explain and say, look, we have other role models. We have Her Excellency Speciosa Wandera Kazibwe. We have Honorable Winnie Byanyima. So these role models are very important to us in our community because they serve the purpose of showing that it can be done. More importantly, the person I was competing with was a lawyer too, but I had a master's degree which he didn't have. So I would ask, does he have a master's degree? Then I would also ask, when you leave your home, do you borrow a man to come and take charge of your home? So it was using this kind of rhetoric, this kind of reasoning that won people's hearts. It wasn't easy, but I was authentic. It's very important to be authentic. Because when you are, you don't have to remember what you said yesterday. So I'd like to share with you that the other aspect I worked with was organization. If you are young person, and you want to get anywhere in life, you must be organized. You must be organized from the personal level, community level, societal level. And organization is very key in our lives as we go on. So the issue of organization goes to the issue of also planning. What is your dream? Is your dream to get to Kabale? If it's to get to Kabale, why are you moving towards Jinja? Now I'm talking like a Ugandan. So you have to have milestones. If I'm going to go to Kabale, I'll hit Masaka. From Masaka, I'll hit Mbarara. From Mbarara, I'll hit Kabale. This is very important. The last one is the issue of resources. You are very lucky. You are born at a time when the Minister of Gender, you heard what Maggie Chomukama said, is giving out billions to the youth. We never had this in our time. You are living in a time when you can communicate with Twitter. We couldn't do that. We had these telephones where you would have to dial, and sometimes it doesn't go through. I can see some people smiling in the room. I was born in the 60s. So basically, as I'd like to share with you, that you are living at the best of times to make your dreams come true. The only thing that is standing in your way is yourself. Like was said before, the only thing to fear is fear itself. I'd like to stop here because as a politician, I could go on. I thank you, and I'll be here. Thank you.
A round of applause to... a round of applause once again to Honorable Dora Byamukama. A woman who took, I should say, a bull by the horns, was swimming against the current, and was able to beat men in the game of politics and lead from Uganda, but also to the East African Legislative Assembly where she's been. But also now, there's a lady among us here who's a carpenter, went to study in India, did carpentry, and she's helping young people, providing jobs. But also, she's in the job of trying to helping the landmine survivors in Western Uganda. Let us listen from the story of Evelyn Zalwango and how Evelyn Zalwango can inspire the young people using her own example. Evelyn.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Evelyn Zalwango. I'm a princess from Buganda. So that doesn't excuse anything about me because people would think if you're a princess, you're excused to anything and you're privileged. I didn't grow up with those privileges as a young girl. I was raised by two great mothers. One is a Muslim and another one is a Christian. So I serve in two different religions and I respect both of them. But as a young girl, I remember very well my mom both of my mothers used to say, if you are going to climb a ladder and while climbing a ladder, you drop other people on the way. That means at some point when you get to that ladder, you will also drop. Because as a woman, you need to raise everyone coming along with you. And I think one of the biggest challenges as women that we face is that we don't forgive ourselves. As women, we need to forgive ourselves. There's this narrative of where everybody has to feel sorry for us. But it starts with you as a woman, like she was saying. It starts with you as a woman, and you need to forgive yourself. You need to stop feeling sorry for yourself. Because the moment you get to that point of your life and saying, oh, these are the challenges I've been facing, and you keep telling the same challenges to yourself, you're actually listening to the challenges yourself, and you cannot heal over those challenges. As women, we need to forgive ourselves. If we forgive ourselves, there's a lot that we can do. I have had, I would say, privileges, and I've had opportunities as a young girl. I remember when I finished school, my dad was like, you know, technology is the in thing now. So you're going to go to India and study IT. And at that point, I did not have any option to say, oh, I don't want IT, I want something else, because I was told this is what you're supposed to do. And as being a girl raised, I was told you're going to go as per what your parents say. You cannot change the narrative. And that is also one of the challenges as women. We cannot change certain narratives because they are set as society, as culture, as everything like that. So I went off to India to study IT, and then while I was there, I was always fascinated by the art and craft that is in India. So through all the other things I did, I decided to enroll myself through doing a bit of house help in people, experts that were living in India, to raise money to be able to take myself through carpentry. So when I finished, I came back, my dad was like, now you are ready. You go to Kampala and find a job in MTN, because that's what, that was the thing that was in. And when I came back, I didn't actually join MTN, I joined different organizations, but at the back of my mind, I always told myself, there's something else I can do. I want to be a carpenter. And then I remember there was a story of where I sat down with one of my aunties and I told her, I want to be a carpenter. And then she goes on and says, you're going to be poor. Have you ever seen any carpenter that is rich in this country? And I was like, probably I'll be the first one. She was like, keep dreaming. So I was like, okay, it starts with a dream. So all of a sudden, I met amazing people on the way, and I started connecting with people. But the one challenge I had as a woman, I didn't know any female carpenter. And any man you would go to and tell them, I want to be a carpenter, is like, what? What is she trying to do? Nowadays, Museveni gave women opportunities of speaking. Look at her. So because we are now being given this platform as women that we can be able to speak for ourselves, and there's this kind of a narrative that as a woman you cannot do something. But the fact that there are no opportunities for women to look up to, as media, as everything, there's need to share stories of successful women in this country, so that they become the women look up to. Because there are not very many successful entrepreneurs I would talk to. Most of my mentors have always been men, but then now I get to other women that I've been exposed to, that I can speak to as my mentors. So there's need to share stories of women that are successful. That is one of the points I want to make. On the other thing, there's what we call limited funding. I've just had the speaker from the Ministry of Gender saying there's billions and billions being given out to women groups. And I'm hearing it for the first time. No offense whatsoever, but I'm hearing it for the first time. But where is that information? There's need for ministries, there's need for organizations that are carrying out these opportunities for women to be shared on platforms, to be put out in the media. The media needs to play quite a bigger role to put those opportunities for women to look up to. And then as women, there's also need to create what we call support networks as women. There's this narrative where they say, oh, two women can't work together, or two women can't work together, because women are always fighting. But men can actually have a fight, and then the next day they go out and drink a beer together, and then the fight will be over. What makes you think as a woman that myself, I can't fight with another woman and then come down to say this is what we are going to agree? Like I said, women, we need to forgive each other. And when we forgive each other, even coming together as women comes very easy for us. And maybe my one other last point would be to address the issue of education and skills. There are opportunities that are given to men. They've been telling us the statistics of education, where the girls that actually finish a certain level of education keep dropping down. From primary school to secondary school, the numbers keep dropping down. But then, what can we do as a nation or as women that these skills are given out to people? And also, women, we should not fear to put ourselves out there. I know I know a number of people now where people are saying, oh, how can she be a carpenter? And I'm very sure everybody's looking at me and saying, I'm very sure she sits in the office and just points, you move there, move there. But that's not how it works. You have to get yourself into the job. You need to get your hands dirty. It does not matter whether you want to be a mechanic. Find another woman that can be a mechanic. If you want to be a carpenter, come to me. We can be carpenters. If you want to be an engineer, if you want to be a site manager, look at those jobs. They are not as hard as we think. It is just in the mind that we tell ourselves, being a carpenter, oh, it is manly, we can't be able to do that. Or being a mechanic. I would praise one of my friends, Jamila, who's actually doing a whole training with the women in mechanics. It's a group of young women, and they are very well ready to go. I have a huge number of, I have young girls coming to me now and training in carpentry at the workshop. This one, you tell her she's trying to prove that she's a man, but you tell her slow down, because this is quite heavy work. You need teamwork. As women, if you are five women, trust me, we can lift a log that is about 10 pounds or anything like that. It's about teamwork and us coming together. Thank you very much.
A round of applause to Evelyn Zalwango. In fact, she says that if you want carpentry, come to her and she'll make you a carpenter. So how many people in this room would want to do that? The young people, the millennials, that you need to make your hands dirty if you want to get some money. So I think that's a very serious challenge to you. And she has done it all. She's been one of the best universities in India. She could have done IT. She decided to go for carpentry. It is working miracles for her. It can work miracles for you. We will be getting your questions to her maybe, and you can learn more. But now, in the transportation industry, we don't have an efficient mass transportation system in our country. All of us now depend on border. This is more of a border economy. But there's a young man who has decided to make it safe, to make it better, using technology as a millennial, and who has also traveled quite extensively. Let us listen from Ricky Papa Thompson on how he started the Safe Border Initiative and what kind of miracles it's doing for him and the people of Uganda. And I know some of you could have moved here while coming on a border. Ricky, it's your time.
Good morning, everyone. Patrick, my name is Rapa, not Papa.
Rapa, yeah, okay.
Yeah, but many times people refer to me as Papa. It's also a very good title, and I like it actually. So let's just continue as Papa. So a little bit about myself. I've told my story a number of times. I'm sure many of you are very comfortable with it. You know a bit of it, but I will say it again. First of all, I'll take a different approach. I think I'm a self-made entrepreneur. Of course, I also went to school and stopped in Senior 4, came to Kampala as a security guard that everyone knows, and then entered border as a normal border driver. We call ourselves drivers, and made my way to becoming a co-founder and a director of one of the biggest organizations right now. I've also gotten recognition from both local and international platforms. Locally here, I've received the Young Achievers Award, PACAS Award. Internationally, I would say, or Africa-wise, we received the Best African App Award last year. And also 2018, I made it to Forbes magazine 30 under 30, promising young entrepreneurs. And then this year, 2019, I received a Golden Award from His Excellency Abdel Fattah, the President of the Arab Republic of Egypt, as one of the contributors towards a better future for the young people in Africa. And in Africa, we are only 5. The rest came from the Arab country.
You guys are mean with your round of applause, really. Oh, you're waiting for many things. Okay, please wrap up.
There are so many. So I will be a bit generic and speak about like the young people. I'm also making sure that I do not forget about women. I think there's a lot that we can do together as young people, as brothers and sisters. But I also believe that it has to start from more of like the grassroots level. I think as of today, I have a fairly good concern about the quality of education that many of our young girls or our young brothers are receiving, especially in the rural areas. And I think many of you will agree with me that most of the young people who go through school, like maybe where I come from, like in Dokolo, it could be very, very hard for them to compete, especially when they come to the job market. And it's also very, very hard for them to make it to a better level. And also right now, when people finish school, I think as of today, as employers, there's something that we're really, really struggling with. That, of course, you find young people who are graduates and they're straight from the university, but they do not have exactly the right skills that you need for them to be employed. So there's always a question that, or there should be like a practical discussion of what we should do to make our young people or our young girls or our young boys employable, because there's a question of like skills that they do not learn directly from the school, or like the education system try to skip it away. Away from that, at Safe Border, we are trying to be as fair as possible and making sure that at every level, straight from like the top management to like the last person, we have women in almost all the positions, I think right now I would proudly say, thank you, I would proudly say that when we look at Safe Border, we have around 60-40%. We have more women than actually men employed with Safe Border as an organization serving the border community. And it's one of those few examples that you find around. When we also go to like the border industry, of course we have 100% of the women drivers, and in the entire industry there are only 2 female border drivers, and they're all working with Safe Border, and we're very, very supportive to them as well. And we are also saying there's already a situation that of course there's so many young people who are really, really unemployed, and this includes the girls and the boys, but my kind of thinking is we should step up and realize there are other things we could take out some of these opportunities and be able to do something with our lives and be able to learn and stuff like this. So in the border industry, of course, we have 100%, but we are also more than willing to support other women who would want to join the border industry as professional border riders. When you come and work with us, you don't be a border driver, but you become like a professional border driver because of the training and the way we prepare you to be able to do your job in the best way possible. We also look at some of the issues, like, because right now we have parents who are actually employed with us, and we're having a very good discussion with UNFPA to make sure that we support these parents and then their women and their children. And this is a very strong discussion that we believe in, that when we look at the current situation, it more goes back to the parents, and we also believe that they have a role to play in shaping the future of our young girls. So these are some of the things that we're doing. I think I strongly believe that there's a lot that we can do together, but also there's this question that we need to revise the way we think, the way we look at the current situation, because there's that part that when you go to school, of course, you get the knowledge, but then when you come out, because you also have so many young people and there are no better positions, I think many people should embrace entrepreneurship and should actually be involved as much as they can in technology, because these are spaces that would create a lot of employment for both of us. And I think these are the kind of areas that as young people, as the young girls, and also like vocational training. And I think she's a good example that as a young girl or as a lady, you can do anything and become someone that the society will actually learn to appreciate. I think I will beg to stop here and allow other panelists to make their points as well, and then we can continue with the discussion.
All right, a round of applause for Ricky. One thing I have seen from the people who have spoken to us right now is that they have dared to dream, is that they have seen a problem in the society, and that problem they have seen opportunities, they have seized the moment, and now they seem to be moving ahead because the problem, in trying to solve it, is giving them employment, is giving them a livelihood. We have a young lady who is an executive director of Malengo Foundation, a youth-inspired and youth-led organization, Michelle. Michelle, what is your story?
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me get comfortable. As introduced, my name is Michelle Amamteker, and I am the executive director of Malengo Foundation. So I'm really humbled and thankful to UNFPA and NTV for inviting me to be on this panel and to share my thoughts, especially about disability rights, as I have been introduced. And many of you would think, why are you a disability rights activist? Do you have a disability? I get this asked all the time. And thinking it is not wrong for you to think it. But you must understand that therein lies where discrimination precipitates. There is no us-them narrative. There is no us without disabilities and them with disabilities. They are just people on a spectrum, and some happen to have disabilities and others don't. Disability rights is a cross-sectional, cross-purpose. There is no disability sector. Every development plan must be disability sensitive. And if there is not this understanding that at every level, because everything, when you look at everything, you must look at it from a primary, secondary, and tertiary level. The understanding that disability rights is necessary is very much centered at a tertiary level, which is the policymakers in this room, the ambassadors, the different civil societies. We understand that disability rights is necessary. It somewhat trickles down to the secondary level, which is what you would have the religious leaders and such, your members of parliament, your legislators. But on a primary level, on a primary interpersonal level, do we understand that we are all people? And basically, we are all on a spectrum of ability. The spectrum is not normal. Everybody is normal. There are no abnormal people. There are just people, all normal, on a different spectrum of ability. How many people understand this on a personal level? Is this being trickled down? I would have to be an A on that. Why? And the saddest part is that is where dreams are made. Dreams are not made in parliament. Dreams are not made in local government offices. Dreams are made in people's homes. Dreams are made in people's lives. And yet, you often find that there is not much funding, there is not much, attitudinal development in the primary sector. Let me give you a case study of why I would say that dreams are aspirational. When you look at, for example, when you look at Abraham Maslow, his hierarchy of needs, you look at the physiological needs and you look at safety needs. So physiological needs basically would be housing and such and such. Then you go to safety, which is more medically inclined, health and everything. Then you go to love and belonging, if I'm correct. Then esteem, then you actualize. Actually now they have moved to transcendence. Disability rights resource allocation and support is largely harnessed in the bottom level needs. This is in the physiological and in the safety. Well, dreams are made in the aspirational part of the hierarchy, in love and belonging, in esteem, in feeling a part of a society. The trouble comes in is, how do you quantify it? This is where you go into the donor's psychology. This is where you find the sustainability trap and the tangibility trap of disability rights, where donors are putting money in advocacies that are mainly quantifiable. But how do you quantify a dream? How do you quantify Nelson Mandela's dream for a free South Africa? How do you quantify it? In the presence, when we move into a sustainability and tangibility trap, we often fail to see that policies don't police social interactions. Apartheid was a policy. It legalized discrimination. So many people defied that policy on a social level. So if you were only going to look at disability rights, which is largely gender and age exacerbates the challenges in disability rights, the problem that we are looking at it from a piecemeal approach. We are looking at it from a tertiary approach. We are looking at it from a policy approach, but we are not looking at it from an interpersonal approach. We're looking at persons with disabilities as performance-oriented people. Disability is not inability. But what if somebody is unable? Does that take away their personhood? I know persons with disabilities who are deaf, blind, with cerebral palsy. So if you're going to quantify what makes a person human by how able they are to, I don't know, how capable they are, if that is your validation, if that's your quantification of personhood, you're way off the mark. So this logic for me comes from a point of, first of all, the mischaracterization of what special needs are. Many people don't understand what special needs are. Like I always reiterate this story. I say, Eve and I are friends. We've met before and we have interacted in many places. I've got a number of my friends with disabilities who are in the audience now. For example, Innocent over there. Innocent over there is deaf. Innocent is present at this function as I am today. She wants to listen to what is happening. You and me want to listen to what is happening. What is the special need? Innocent's need is the same need as yours. She wants to listen. The special need is not the fact that there is an interpreter who is signing for her. There is nothing special about the needs of persons with disabilities. The only thing that makes them special is the means. When you mischaracterize what special needs are, it influences how you make policy. You come from a medical model of disability, looking at disability of something that is more mechanical than it is actually personal. When you realize that every single need that every woman has without a disability, every woman with a disability has the same need, is when we start to really talk about, are we going to achieve our SDG 2030 agenda? Are we going to achieve our Vision 2040 agenda of Uganda, when we start to understand what disability rights are and what special needs really are? Another problem is the psychology of the donor. This is both in government, policy, civil society, understanding that persons with this, there needs to be more funding, there needs to be resource allocation to a holistic approach to disability rights. There is no disability rights, like any human right, is both interdependent, and indivisible. The need for somebody to socially participate in society is the same need for somebody to go to school. They both interact with each other. We need to find indices of how to quantify these needs and see how this affects the GDP, because persons with disabilities contribute to the GDP. They are not a sector who should just be harnessed in CSR approach. They are not just there they are not charity cases. They actually contribute to the GDP. And if advanced, they will go a much further long way. So we need to find indices that actually quantify dreams in such a way that relates to life, that relates to purpose, that relates to education, that relates to economy. Thank you so much, ladies.
A round of applause. Michelle there, isn't she amazing? She seems to have taken the rights issue of people with disability. I want to tell you something, a very short story. That one day I went to the school of the deaf somewhere in Chegegwa on a Sunday morning. So we went to have a church service. And a church service where everything is done in a sign language. So I am the only person who did not understand the sign language. I can tell you that's how you can understand when you feel almost excluded. Yeah. Because they could clap, they could sing, they could dance, they could smile, they could laugh, and I was totally not understanding what was going on. So I imagine this is what really goes on in their lives every day, when things are happening and you have no idea. Yeah. I felt at that moment I am the one who's totally disabled because I couldn't hear, I couldn't understand, and yet you could see everything is going on. So yes, we need to sometimes put ourselves in that situation to understand their issues. Thank you very much, Michelle.
Thank you.
We have heard from leadership, governance issues, carpentry and design, mass transportation, rights. So our next person to speak to us is the Chief of Staff of Simba Group of Companies and the founder of Musana Cats, who in 2016 was named by the World Economic Forum as top African innovator, and 2018 was named one of Forbes 30 under 30 for Africa. Natalie, it's your time.
Hello, thank you. Firstly, I want to thank UNFPA for having this kind of event and this kind of dialogue. I think it's really a big issue, and it's not just about Uganda's context, it's something that's happening all around the world. But I think it's important for Uganda because we are under a lot of pressure from our population and without economic growth. So as Dr. Maxime said, we can't afford to be running this race with one leg tied behind our back, which is the issue of women. And too often, the issue of women is put in a silo or a corner or an affirmative action or a charitable initiative, and it's a small thing put aside. But women are more than half the population of this country. And if we're going to be able to feed ourselves, to look after ourselves, to produce for ourselves, to be able to create the solutions to all the current problems we have, we've got to involve women at every single level. And I think one of the issues we have is we're not building a big enough pipeline for that. Because for every 100 girls in Uganda that start primary one, only 30 of them are going to get to secondary school. So you've already lost the capacity of 70% of your population of women, and that's the capacity for women to be all kinds of things in this day and age. It's really amazing for me to hear the stories of these other wonderful ladies, you too, Ricky, but of the ladies particularly, because they understand the challenges that I feel like I've faced working here and understanding the environment that we grow up in here and the culture and the stigma and the pressure that women live under and still are expected to fit in a particular box. I think one of the advantages I'm very grateful for in my life is that I was not raised to be a girl. I was not raised any differently from my brothers. Everything they could do, I could do. Anything they didn't have to do, I didn't have to do. And I think that coming from a background like that, I'm very grateful to my parents for not making me feel less because I was a girl, or not making me do something different because I was a girl, because that has helped me so much as an adult. Whenever I'm in a working environment and someone says you can't do this because you're a woman, it does not compute for me. That's not a reason. That doesn't make sense.
Absolutely.
And I think it's something that more women need to be told when they're younger. There is nothing that we can't do because we are women in this day and age. And I think it's something that I carry with me in every aspect of my work. And I've worked in a lot of situations where I'm the only woman, or in a field where there's not many women who are working in this kind of context. And it's something that I try to grow and project with all the companies that I work with now. I used to work in construction. That was the first job that I was given when I was here, and I was the only woman on the construction site. No one respects you. Everyone makes fun of you.
Yeah.
They used to mock my voice and every time I'd walk by. And I had to become resilient very quickly and keep showing up to work and keep coming to work because I had a responsibility and I had a duty. I had one of my staff who refused to listen to me as a woman. He did not want to have a woman boss, and he went around me to my superior and said, I cannot report to her. So my boss supported me and said, then you cannot work on this site. This is her project. You have got to be able to listen to her. And so I'm very grateful for the women who have come before me and the men who have supported women like that, because you need the support system.
Yeah.
You need the champions. You need the role models. You need someone to give you a chance to open the door, to understand that you are not less than, you are not incapable, you are not unable to do something just because you are a woman. In the working area, I really don't see a difference. My brain is just as capable as a man's brain, and I am lucky to work in a field where I'm not using physical labor, so there's nothing that I'm incapable of doing.
Yeah.
It's something that I really try to project, and when we started working with Musana Carts, the street vending initiative, all the street food vendors we were interviewing were men. And I could not understand, why aren't women making Rolex? Is there something physically demanding about this job? Yes, madam, you have to stand the whole day. So women can't stand the whole day. So now at Musana Carts, we have 5 women making Rolex all day, every day. And it's something that we try to promote and project because we need to inspire other women. You don't need to be kept at home or put in a box or told you can't do something. But I think it's a system that has to work together. Like Honorable mentioned, we have to believe from inside. I think I was given an advantage because I started at a privileged level where I was not told I was less, which I understand most women are. From the time we are young, the way we are raised, we are the caregivers, we are the last to serve, the last to sit, we are the last priority because you're supposed to always choose to present the man first. The man is more important than you. And then as you grow older, you learn to step aside. You learn to be more quiet. You're told to fit in a box, to not be heard, to not speak up at meetings. And that's something that we have to work to overcome. And I think the more role models, the more politicians, the more business leaders, the more innovators we can see speaking up and stepping up and not fitting in a box and not shrinking to not be bigger than the man in the room. I think that's an inspiration, and that's leadership that we need to see and understand as women, so that when we embody it, we are not crushing ourselves and our own spirit, and that has to come from within. But it also is about the community around us. We need to remove the obstacles in the way for women. This has to start with sensitization of parents. Girls are just as valuable as boys. Here we were talking about the pay gap. Women are paid less because we have to go away to give life. We should be paid more because that is something we have to take out of our day to do for everyone. But it's something that we are constantly punished for. We have got to start to remove these obstacles. Sensitize parents that girls need to go to school just as much as boys. Sensitize men. There's so many men that we work with every day that just don't understand because it's something they've grown up with, a culture, it's the education, it's the system. A lot of the times I'm very aggressive with when men are telling me I can't do something, or if you're being sexually harassed in the workplace, or just the attitude a man can have. And I would react very poorly and angrily because I feel frustrated and victimized, and it's not a position I want to be in. But with learning, I see that many men just don't know better. They're inheriting what their fathers and brothers and the men before them have taught them. And something that we need to work on as a whole community is sensitizing men. Some men don't want to hear women telling them about these things. They will not understand. They will not respect it. They need other men to tell them. So I ask other men to police each other, sensitize each other, educate each other. When you see a man saying something that's inappropriate, when you see him bullying a woman in the workplace, call him out, stop him. It takes men to help other men. And this is how you educate the next generation of men. This is how our boys will grow up to be better men and will grow up in a world where women are not less. How do you teach a boy that his mother, who has done so much for him, is valued less in the world? I feel like it must be confusing. And then you grow up in a society that supports and grows this, and this is all around the world. So I think as Uganda, we need to not wait and take the longest route to develop. It's time to leapfrog and catch up with the rest of the world. And the only way we're going to be able to do this is if we include women in every conversation, at every level, in every sector. Because women will work in every sector. Women are a part of every sector. We are consumers, we are buyers, we are manufacturers, we are homemakers, we are every part of the world and of life includes women. So why aren't we included in the decision making, in the brainstorming, in the policy making, in the concerns, in the problems, in the solutions? It's not enough to say we have 2 women on our board, or we have 3 women in the office, or we have tried. Women are 50% of the population. So if you're ever in a room and there's less than 50% women, there's something wrong with that room. And that's something that everyone needs to be more proactive about.
Thank you very much, Natalie. I mean, I think they're very encouraging words we're hearing this morning, and these ladies and the gentlemen are very courageous people, that sometimes they can find a lot of challenges at places of work, and maybe they are harassed. When they are harassed, not that because they hate women, but like Natalie says, they just don't get it, or they don't know better. So we need sometimes also to sensitize us men, to be sensitized, to be empowered and understand, to do the right things. Before I can come to you, the audience, the auditorium, so that you can also add your views, maybe where you agree with them, where you can enrich their positions, you can. But let me go back to the Honorable Dora Byamukama, because having heard from these people who are slightly younger, what do you learn from them? What do we need to do as a people, as a country? And after that, I'll go to the audience. Dora, once again. You could turn that microphone on your side.
Can you repeat it?
Yes, you've listened to these young people. They are innovative. They have dreams. They have seen challenges, and they are turning challenges into opportunities. But every day they meet these challenges, they are not losing hope. They're not giving up. What would you recommend in a situation as we move forward as a country? Because you've been a leader, and then we shall also get views from them, from the people who are listening.
Thank you very much, Patrick. When I started off, I didn't know which way to go. So as a pioneer, it's a bit difficult. Now I'm more comfortable. What would I encourage them to do, the young people?
Yeah.
I would encourage them to keep on searching for new opportunities. They need to stay hungry. And they need to look for these opportunities in places which are not so obvious. Sometimes it takes one to look at what is happening on the streets, like Natalie has done, to be able to say, let me help the people who are working on the streets and making chapati and doing the Rolex. I think we need to look at different ways of doing things, and most importantly, also looking at cutting edge solutions. What is new? What can we utilize? For example, the issue of solar. Solar is free, but you can harness it to do much more. So for me, I want the young people to stay hungry, to be open-minded, and to also continue looking at the problems, because these keep on shifting. What is a problem today may not be a problem tomorrow. And also utilizing the issue of globalization. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. When I was working at the World Bank, I was doing my internship there in Washington, D.C., one of the things I loved doing was getting out and buying that hot dog on the street. As a student, I felt very happy because this was a very good hot dog. It was tasty. But when I came back, I didn't think of the idea that I could actually have what's happening in form of our Rolex. So I think we need to just look further afield, utilize the technology that is out there, and keep on dreaming big, and more importantly, putting these dreams into practice.
Okay. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, to our panelists. I am going to take about probably 5 to 6 questions or comments or submission that you have. But we want to maybe have this discussion whereby you can be adding value, where you see a problem in our country, you point it out. If you have a solution, you say it, so that we can be able to impact on the policy makers, like Commissioner Kama, who is here, from the Ministry of Gender. They can pick some of these ideas and incorporate them in the policy proposals that can be made to government. Yes, I'll...
All right, Patrick Amara. As you take the questions, just to acknowledge the presence of our beauties, the beauty queens in Uganda. Queen Abenacho, Miss Uganda 2018-2019. A round of applause for her.
Queen Abenacho. Thank you very much.
We also have Leah Kagasa, Miss Uganda 2016-2017. A round of applause for her as well. And also Miss Fiona Bizu, Miss Uganda 2012-2013. Thank you so much. Just to let you know that the Wi-Fi lines are open. You can hashtag G for GUG, no password. So yeah, let's get tweeting, all right?
Okay, we've had young people who have dared to dream. They have seen the problems of our country. They are trying to solve them, and by solving them, they are having a livelihood and helping young Ugandans. You've had their stories, and you have had, you know, your own probably issues. What can we do as a country to make our lives better? Yes. We have a Hajati there, and then we have a gentleman right here. Please, when you get a microphone, be quick and make it precise and concise so that we can get many views. Let's begin with Hajati.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
My name is Jamila Mayanja. I'm the founder and team leader of Smart Girls Foundation Uganda. We train mechanics, electronics, girls in electronics, welders, and truck drivers. I have some here, and they're dying to ask Honorable a question, and my question goes to Honorable. Yeah. You've talked about self-esteem, and Natalie talked about the men. The men nowadays feel left out. Under our organization, we have something called the Good Men Project, where we empower the men to selfishly empower the girls. So we make sure the men are empowered to empower the men. But the biggest problem we got, and even when we are doing our Girls with Tools program, Joyce will share a little bit. She moved into a garage, and every garage should go to, like you, they kept on laughing at her. You can't do this, you can't do this, until she eventually found that one man who believed in her and took her on. But when I kept on going to schools, I'm trying to give them a proposal to actually empower the young girls and the men from the grassroots to believe in themselves and to be empowered young boys. So they say it is our curriculum we get from UNEB, we have to do this way. Why? Because most of our schools, already start from schools, they belittle the girls. What advice do you have as the Honorable to make sure our schools view that self-esteem for the young girls, and to make sure also the boys balance it up? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Tushabe Bazi Vilcheho. I'm a founder and a co-executive director of an organization called Communication for Development Foundation Uganda, CDFU. Two of my co-founder members are ladies, and I can assure you,
Doing great.
What we are saying, I'm a witness. The women have the same capacities that we do as men. Quickly, I want to follow on the conversation, especially on the issue of role models. And I would like to thank UNFPA for and NTV for this dialogue. My prayer is that we can take it beyond this environment, go down to the rural communities, because the role model approach is very, very important. With the panelists we have, by the time we leave, I'm sure many of us will be inspired. And I have a quick experience. In 2003, we had a partnership with Johns Hopkins University. We did a program called African Transformation. We profiled role models. One of very interesting story was a female lady who was a tax conductor, the only tax conductor at that time in our very vibrant tax industry. You all know what happens there, those of us who have used the taxes. And she was an inspiration. And when we profiled her, we took a video profile of her. We used that to have dialogues in rural communities. And in Masaka, in one of our dialogues, one girl came out and said, I can't believe that a lady can be this industry. And she was inspired. She approached her taxi stage, and she started. But that was because of the exposure she had got, having learned and seen what another person had done. So I think the role model approach for me is very, very important in exposing and empowering our young girls to do the same that we do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, you have a microphone, ma'am.
I'm called Joyce Namteli, doing mechanical engineering under Smart Girls Foundation. I'm now doing my intern in Garage industrial area as a mechanic lady. My question goes to Honorable. I will ask in Uganda. Sorry. Tugenda kola tya madam abaana abato abawala nga mukyalo eyo bambi bali eyo nabo nga betaaga support. Tugenda kola tutya nga nabo baagala kino ekya mechanics.
What can the young people do, especially the female mechanics that need support? How can you support them the more? I think that's the question she was asking to Honorable Dora Byamukama. We're going to take maybe, yes, we have a hand in front here, and then a hand right in the second row. Here, the microphone is here.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm called Sylvia Mwebu-Antambi, and I'm the chairperson of the Equal Opportunities Commission. Mine is a comment and also a prayer to all the employers or people in different capacities and responsibilities. I think we need to give an opportunity to everyone. Whether you're carrying out interviews, whether you want to give promotions, whether you want to do anything, give an opportunity to everyone, whether disabled, whether a woman or man. Of course, we can't leave the men, because when we leave them behind, then we will not develop. But give an opportunity. We can't be the same, but we need to support all those groups of people in different levels. Thank you.
Okay, yes, you have a microphone.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Claire Nakato. I represent Challenges Uganda, but more on a personal level because of the person interested in women in my company. First of all, I'd like to thank the panelists and UNFPA and NTV for organizing this. I have written down a lot of things, mainly from my personal runs to my friends, so I'm glad I have the opportunity to talk about them. I think this was mentioned by Natalie about not trying to keep women small in their capacities. Also about, so many people have mentioned that we need to go everywhere. So I say we need to diversify development in terms of infrastructure, resources to also rural areas. I have a personal project where in my free time I go and meet different teenage mothers and talk to them. I'm a single mom myself and a young mom at that, so I understand what they're going through. It's really hard. So I talk to them most of the times, and these are the children or the girls that are bearing children for the next generation, rural areas, urban areas, and all. So if we keep these opportunities in rural areas, we sort of do not allow the people in rural areas to develop at the same pace like us. And these are the people that are going to grow up, come to Uganda, to Kampala, flood the area, and have nothing to bring. So, as this has been organized in Kampala, I would maybe say more such things be organized in rural areas, so that in languages they do understand, so that the people that receive these opportunities are all over the country, because that's how we need to see sustainable change. If we want it, I'm going to make this quick. The other thing is, there is a thing where in workplaces, women are hired because they are presentable. Women are sent to meetings because they are presentable. Some bosses may tell you, you just have to smile. This person will give us the feed, or this person will just say, I'm giving you that project because you're a woman. It sort of objectifies women and makes you feel like you're only hired because you're going to entice the manager or whichever person, wherever they are, to give you that job. I think that does not make women feel special and maybe deserving in the workplaces they are if it continues. Okay, I'll give the opportunity to someone else to ask. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I can understand there are a few questions. I think there were two to Honorable Dora Byamukama, and some of you are just giving comments and submission, which is a good thing, and that we need to roll this thing out. Makes sense not only to ourselves in this hall, but maybe go to the rural areas and sub-counties and districts, find the role models who can be an example to those women and men in rural Uganda. Let me take two more. There's a man in uniform. Yes. And then after that, the next.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am called the ASP Ogwe. Some people call me he for she, because 3 years ago I walked in the shoes of women because I wanted to feel how it is to be a woman.
How did you do that?
I did the campaign called Walk a Mile in Her Shoes here in Kampala.
Okay.
Another time I went to Nansana where they killed over 20 young women, and we did some campaign there where I carried a pot, a baby, and the walk.
How was it like?
It's not easy.
Okay.
Not easy, of course, but it is nice. Just want to make very, very quick comments, and picking from the panelist. What she said was so good to me, because that is what I am looking for. How can we bring as many men to the fight against gender-based violence as possible? When I started, I got a lot of challenges. People called me names, others called me a gay, a homosexual. Why are you carrying a bag of a woman? Do you want to be a gay? So I think that also stops many men from joining this platform. But then what can we do to bring as many men to be champions, to be role models as possible, so that others don't point fingers at them, others don't pull them back? That is the question I want to ask. I have seen that the problem is that we, the men, we just don't know what women can do. I want to give one example. May her soul rest in eternal peace. Look at the former Commissioner of Police, AMISOM, Madame Christina Lalo. She was the IGP in Somalia. But if she was to come to Uganda, I don't know whether we would allow her to be IGP of Uganda Police. Can you imagine a lady in Uganda? We don't look at her as a potential leader, potential IGP, but when they're in another country or with the United Nations, then they are potential leaders. And she was not leading only Ugandan police, but police from all over the world, and she did quite amazing work.
So that's an indictment on the police that you serve in this country, right?
No, for all of us, it is something that we can all do together. We have parliamentarians here.
Okay.
I mean, as a man, I am saying just sometimes we bury our heads down. We don't look at the potential in these women. Then number two, I went to Pader and Apache 2 weeks ago. Men have really abandoned their work. Men are drinking from early morning to the next morning. The people who are doing the work, paying school fees, buying food, are women. They are really doing well, and the men are nowhere to be seen. They're just at trading centers, and they're just drinking. That means these women can do what a man can do. All these women can do anything that I, as a man, can do, any woman can do. The only thing is for us, the men, to know it. Many of us have refused to know it. And what I propose is that there are very many campaigns that could bring us the men, and we discuss these issues together. And like she has said, if a man speaks to a fellow man, that man is likely going to listen. Yeah. If we can get as many champions as possible to speak to their fellow men and explain things to them, give them testimonies, give them illustrations, I believe we can get as many men as possible. And I want to appeal to UNFPA and other UN partners and other organizations to at least also put some budget to get as many male champions as possible, so that we see what we can do together. Because this is for us all. If we leave it for the women alone, we will not achieve much. But if we all join hands together, we are likely to go far. Then the last one also is I don't know whether we can organize some campaign in the streets where everybody should come. We don't do it in a hotel, a good place like this. Let's go and walk in the streets, put on some female shoes as men, carry some babies, carry some firewood, tell the world these roles are not only for women, and if I do it, it doesn't make me less of a man. Yes. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Isn't that encouraging? But you can imagine that she tried to do the campaign he for she, put on a high-heeled shoe, carry a pot and carry a baby. Maybe for 1 or 2 days, she realized the challenge was monumental. So you can imagine now for other people, and that's the life forever. So the problem is real, and he tried to do it and realized it was not simple. And we thank you very much. Maybe let us have Honorable Dora respond to the 2 questions, and Natalie, and then we can come back to you before they forget the questions.
Is it on? I'm a very big fan, sir. Thank you so much for all that you do. I post your video at least once a month, really. It's so inspirational, and I really commend men that can lead and stand up and support women in front of other men. And I think what you're doing is what needs to be done. We need more men's groups and men to understand in a men's way, in a men's platform, in the way that you prefer to communicate, to understand these issues and be more sensitized. It's always a carrot and a stick. There should be incentives for companies, incentives for men, incentives for workplaces to make sure that you're including women in more decisions, in issues, and also make sure that you're policing the bad behavior of men. It's come to my attention in the last few days that Samantha Mwesigwe, who was a state attorney general, has been sexually harassed for 10 years, and there's nothing that she can do about it. She works in our legal system, she works for a Ministry of Health, she's had to resign her job, she's taken on Twitter, she's gone on social media, the Prime Minister, and there's nothing that she can do. And that is so disheartening for all women who work in Uganda. Because if a woman in her position is in that kind of situation and there's nothing she can do, what hope is there for the rest of us? We need men to support us in this. You're right. We're feeling a lot of pushback now with all the girl empowerment, all the girl child programs. Men are already complaining. It's all about girls. What about the boys? The boys have had 2,000 years.
Yes.
At least not step aside, but encourage women. Hold our hands and encourage us to come with you. So I would really ask men to take a leading role. Thank you for standing up and taking the name calling and the disagreement, and I'm sure all the different people in your department must have come at you for doing what you've done. But we thank you as women, and we need more men like you to step up and speak for us and fight for us and be inclusive in the process, because we cannot move without the support of men. It's the same dilemma Dr. Maxime was saying. We can't run a race as a country if half the population is not working. Yeah. But also we can't move forward as women if half of the population, who are the employers, our husbands, our fathers, our brothers, are not supporting and encouraging us either. So I would really ask you to continue what you're doing and to gather as many men as you can, even in private forums. Sometimes with the egos of men, it's hard to discipline someone in front of other people or to teach someone something. But even in closed quarters, when it's just men, it's important that you don't let each other speak about women in a negative way, harass women, joke about women in a derogatory way. And also it's an opportunity for you to educate each other and say, I can't do this to my wife. I do not want my daughter to be treated like this. So I cannot do it to another woman. And take that responsibility for yourselves and for your own communities as men.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dora.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to, I think the question was from Hajati and the group. I want to thank you for what you're doing. On the issue of self-esteem, which goes to the point of also attitude, how you perceive yourself and maybe how you're eventually perceived. This is a very important aspect of a woman's life. And obviously, even in politics, when you stand, before you say anything, what are you saying? Because your demeanor and how you stand already speaks for you. So in effect, we need to be very, very mindful of this. But talking from a personal experience, I think the issue of self-esteem partly comes from the character of the person. But that character can be changed over time because it is impacted upon by the way that person is nurtured. When Natalie was talking, she talked about how she was treated as any other child in the home. When Papa was talking, he was talking about the issue of having more women riding the safe border, as well as into carpentry and the issue of human rights. But I'd like to say very quickly, recently I went to Burkina Faso, courtesy of UNFPA and Ministry of Gender, and I saw very many women riding bikes. If you go to Ouagadougou, exposure. So it's very important that some of these girls are exposed to what is happening around the world. So you bring them clips, you show them that, for example, in Kenya, we have these women mechanics, and they can do it. We also show it on our TVs. The media has a very big influence, because what we see, what we hear every day in, day out, really molds how we think. The other aspect is religion, and I'm glad you are a Hajjat. We go to the mosques, we go to the churches. The way the Bible and the Quran is interpreted is very, very important. It's very important that we have this consistent message that we are born in God's image and that we are equal. It's absolutely important. Coming to the school that I went to Gayaza High School, I was privileged and honored, because we were always reminded that we were the cream of the cream. And we were told to hold up our heads. And this was on a daily basis. So we actually believe that we are the best of the best. So what we tell our children growing up is very important. Every day, it's important to tell your son, your daughter, you are beautiful, you are intelligent, you are the best that there is. This messaging, for me, does it. When you go further, you'll go into issues of clubs, you'll go into peer counseling, you'll go into action. Because once someone produces, they get more confident. So I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, and I hope you'll get some more women on board. The issue of the rural dimension. I'm glad Maggie is here, Chomkama is here. The Ministry of Gender and the government itself has local governments. At local government level, you have community development officers. So there's a whole arrangement which can be utilized and tapped in to access resources to help women and girls with resources, skills training. I told you at the beginning, you are living in the best time ever. This is the best time ever. Communication is out there, resources are out there. You just have to know, find out, and tap into what is there and utilize it to the best of your ability. I'm sorry I might not be able to give you the best answer to this, but I think the resources are there, and if I were you, I'd make an appointment and go to Ministry of Gender, go to Ministry of Education, go to Ministry of Health, go to UNFPA and other UN agencies, and I'm sure you'd be able to reach out to the rural areas and have certain hubs. And from the hubs, you'd be able to grow into bigger areas, into a bigger network. I think I'd like to stop here and just thank Sylvia for being here of the Equal Opportunities Commission. This is one of the areas I worked on very closely in Parliament of Uganda. And I just want to give one example before I close. When you go to an interview and you are 8 months pregnant, they don't ask you. They don't ask you about your husband. They don't ask you about anything else. They look at what you present. And if it's a bank, the person on the panel is thinking she's going to be 1 month on the job and she'll be out for maternity leave. Even if you are the most brilliant person in that room, I'm sorry, I'm not facing this room, this side, you may not get that job. Just because of your demeanor, just because of what you show, just because you are a woman and you have to give life. Only women give life. Yes. You may not get that job. If you're a man and you've left home and 8 months pregnant, nobody will ask you whether your wife is pregnant. You'll get that job. So when we talk about affirmative action and competition, we are beginning from a very unfair advantage, just from the messaging. You come in and you're pregnant, and everybody in the room is thinking, she may give birth here. What do we do with her?
Okay. A round of applause to Honorable Dora Byamukama. She has also talked the issue of affirmative action. I don't know whether it has worked miracles for us or maybe has been misused, but I've also seen people who are in leadership on affirmative action platform and they are there forever. So I was wondering maybe if they served for about 5 or 10 years and then they can build capacity of another woman, because you cannot be building capacity in perpetuity. I wonder what you have to say about that. So let us take a couple of questions again. Mala, there's somebody close there.
Thank you very much. I was really praying that you see my hand. Thank you very much for this dialogue. I'd like to agree with Natalie when it comes to women. I'm at MOVES. My name is Joanna. I'm a second year student. I started a business around MOVES, an ice cream business. Around MOVES, there are businesses owned by students, and you'll find none owned by a lady. So I love business. I talk to my friends, and Alice, she's called Alice, I work with her. When we were starting this business, our landlord, they were looking down on us, you know, these girls, they're just here playing games, they're students instead of first studying. So even our former employer also, he used to own the business, never respected us, and we let him go. But our business is successful. We go for gigs that they see us very young girls there operating the ice cream machine. It is very nice. So I said, girls, if you see an opportunity, go for it. Do not say that just because you're a girl, go for it. Then they were saying that parents also have a success. They have a key in this. The ice cream machine is very expensive. We talked to our parents. They would have refused and said that, first study. But they were very welcome. They helped us with the capital. We also added on our savings, and it was successful. And then also men, yes, you people are a key role in this, because when we were starting the business, most of the people who were telling us, pushing us, encouraging us, were our male friends compared to the girls, because they also see, this one. Okay? But then after when they see that you're successful, then they start coming back. Free ice cream, you know. But sometimes we give them, yes, we share, because we know we also have to stay by our religious beliefs. You do not do bad to your neighbor who has done bad to you. And then one of the things that maybe we do not know, one of the challenges in Uganda, I volunteer with the Office of Ambassador for Women and Girls in Uganda. And you people, do you know there are girls that drop out of school, not because they are teenage mothers, but because they lack pads. They go in class, then after when they have mapped and boys see them in class, they do not want to go back to school, because when they go back, everyone is going to laugh at them. So it is also an issue that we should know about. Girls out there are dropping out of school because they lack pads. They sell their bodies, they become prostitutes to get 5,000 shillings to go and buy a pack of pads so that they can go to school, so that they can get the pads. So it is one of the issues that we do not know about, most people. I also didn't know, I was very surprised. That's why I decided to volunteer, because I couldn't imagine a girl can fail to go to school just because of a pad.
All right.
So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We talked about much, I think, areas of reproductive health, because I think they provide different challenges to women, but also areas of gender-based violence. Yeah. Because you go in some parts of the country, you find that women are being battered by the people who are supposed to love and protect them. I have seen areas in eastern Uganda where they have built what they call shelter homes, that the woman has been battered, you go to a shelter home, and then you are kept there so that maybe you can run away from this abusive man. They have reached an extent where in those shelter homes, they don't want to see anything called a man, because they are so much traumatized. There's this man who disagreed with her wife over what to use for contraceptives. I think the wife put in an implant in the hand, and then the man used a table knife to remove that implant. You can imagine, it is that bad sometimes. So sometimes we have become like beasts or fellow human beings. I think, like, to use the words of Natalie, just because we do not know. We don't know better, or we just don't get it. So how do you sensitize a group like those? Okay, this is serious. Let me take a mother there, a musician, an artist, an inspirational lady who has been very phenomenal, raising women of valor.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I almost missed this because I just flew in from US, but I said, okay, let me just go. 5 in the morning, that's when I made it home. And then I said, okay.
Thank you very much.
But I'm so excited about this. Thank you, UNFPA and MTV, for this event. I just, I didn't get that young lady's name.
Natalie.
Natalie. I mean, I know self-esteem begins at home. That's what you said. Self-esteem begins at home with the mothers. I always tell mothers that you should tell your girls that you are not different from the boys. My mother had 7 boys and I was the only girl. I grew up as a girl and a boy. I look good still as a girl, so I didn't turn out to be a boy. And then in schools, we go to 40, I am the founder and executive director of WAWI, Women at Work International. And we go to schools, 49 schools a year. But whenever we go there for prevention of early pregnancies, you usually find only girls. But I always tell them that I will wait until the boys come. Because also the boys need to be educated. How do girls get pregnant? So the boys need to be in the classes, or they need to be educated or sensitized about how you become pregnant. But usually we find those. I was so impressed when you said that you were taught from day one how to be everything, how to do everything. So mothers also need to be educated about this, that we need to tell our kids, the Honorable, you said that you are beautiful, because if you don't tell them that they are beautiful, a man is going to come and say you are beautiful, and they'll feel like, oh my God, I'm beautiful. But if they are told from day one that you are beautiful, they'll grow up knowing that they are beautiful. When a man comes to say you're beautiful, they'll say, I know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think they are also bringing in the issue of parenting.
Yes.
That parenting is so serious. If you listen to the story of Honorable Dora, you know, they have been raised by 2 teachers who have taken her to Gayaza High School, maybe ending up Georgetown University. If you listen to the story of Natalie, probably she has learned from the foot of the master in terms of business. If you listen to the story of Michelle, probably reason. So it means, in my view, that the parents, the generation that is, who are parents like us, that we need to do much more so that we can raise a generation with integrity, that is hardworking, that is innovative, that is skilled. So has the parent of Uganda left his or her job in raising the generation of today? I don't know what you think, but okay. I'm going to, at the back, there's a young man there, and then there's a lady here, yes, and another lady there. Okay, I'll come that side.
Yes,
all right.
For purposes of equal opportunity, as Madam said, allow me to give the microphone to these people in front.
Okay, thank you very much. She's going to speak through an interpreter.
Okay, hello everyone, good morning. My name is Ankunda Dorek, and I am a student at Makerere University. I'm doing business administration. I'm so excited about the presentation of my sister Bitature. She did a very good presentation. And also, I wanted to say something about men and women, because sometimes it takes men to be in the shoes of the women. Yeah, what you said was very sensitive, because if the men do not feel the real situation of the women, sometimes they do not understand what exactly the ladies go through, because if they did, they would feel it. So now my question is, for instance, people who get into marriage and they have children, and so if the woman does not have a job, but the man does, and again the woman has to take more responsibilities of taking care of the children, cleaning the house, and all that, and it's a lot of work. So in that case then, if she doesn't have the money, but then she thinks of perhaps starting a business, and then the man feels that she can't go on to do the business, because she will then have to compete with him, because she will be earning some income. So how do you go about with that?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, I don't know whom you want to answer that question.
I can answer.
Natalie, okay. Thank you. Yes, I had already pointed out some. Okay, yes, sir.
I greet you all, ladies and gentlemen. I greet you once again, and good morning. My name is Agea Tony, and I established an organization for the deaf, and I'm a student at Chambogo University, studying social works and social administration. So I am so excited with UNFPA for organizing this event. It is a very important event, and its theme is very important as well, and I support it 100%. Because all people must prioritize equality. All people must be given equal opportunities. That is, it's also in UN law and frameworks that all people deserve equal opportunities. So, as I've said, all people deserve equal opportunities.
Right.
So now, I would like to talk about equal opportunities in detail. I would like to say that women and girls can do as much as men can do. And even disabled women can also do as much as men can do. We actually have a woman MP who is a disabled person. And also we have a woman councillor who is a disabled person. But when it comes to employment,
okay,
we continue to have challenges in the employment sector.
I think our brother there has emphasized the same point we've been talking. I want all of you to raise your hands and just clap for him like this. Unfortunately, it's not looking there.
And then people also have negative attitudes. That's the other challenge. Because usually the employers and the bosses, they underlook the persons with disabilities that they cannot.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. And please give him a bucket of flowers. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. All right.
And also, he's talking about the environment of work is also not favorable for persons with disabilities.
Okay.
For instance, I'd like to ask a question. To the safe border gentleman, rapper. It's not the first time meeting rapper. I've ever met him before. That was...
What is the question, sir?
Last year. Sorry, he stammers.
Okay.
Yeah. So the safe border industry, does it prioritizes inclusion of persons with disabilities? That is my question.
All right. Thank you very much. We are taking away the microphone to the next.
Thank you very much.
It's a question of time and nothing else. It's a question of time, and we thank you. very much. Yeah, Ricky, you've had that question. This is hard because I would want each one of you to really contribute, but I don't know how I'm going to do this. Okay. You're going to pick 2 people from here, then 2 here, then we shall go like this, and that will end, because we have about 20 minutes to do this. 2 people from that row, and here, and then like that. And Mala, you'll have to choose the 2. Let's share the responsibility.
Thank you so much. Sarah Hanakwa, coming from Uganda AIDS Commission. I just want to talk about the issue of mentorship. We've talked about, and all of them have talked about looking out for an icon, a model, and all that. But I think I want to take on the Honorable Dora's statement that she made, that for my young sisters and brothers here, that we have to always be hungry to be able to get what we want. And that means we have to identify the person that can make us reach to where we are. It's a very important element in growing up, in identifying what you want to have as a young person. When I'm speaking about mentorship, is personally, I have benefited from mentorship. I'm currently doing my PhD in health economics, and it's because I have people who always pull me and remind me, you can do this. Whenever I reach that level, I will say, I want more. Then they will say, talk to this one, or I identify who can take me there. So look out, we have people in front there. Don't leave this place without talking to a person who you want to be like in front there. Mentorship is very critical for all of you who can't reach to some point without. And then, still with mentorship on the part of government, I think it's important that we identify mentors for people like those, like the Minister of Gender, with a program that helps the young people. It's important that we identify and gazette people who can pull the young people from different opportunities, from different areas, to pull out others. So those people like Papa said that he identifies a need, that there are not more than enough women riding a bicycle, but the will might be there. So how about identifying with him and asking him what could be the reason? The good reason could be that these young people, our young girls, can't get the motorcycle, and then buy that motorcycle, work with Papa to access that motorcycle to these young people, and then Papa mentors them to do in such businesses and so forth and so forth. So the issue of mentorship, I think we need
Thank you. Thank you very much. Please, we're going to use maybe about 30 seconds to the next person, 30 to 40 seconds, if you have a question or comment, and then to the next.
Thank you, Patrick. I am Paya Selungat. I am a volunteer with an indigenous NGO in Kamocha. Mine is just going to the Commissioner for Gender. From 12th of July 2016, that was actually on my birthday, I tried to do a bit of career guidance and development back in my rural area. I come from Katakwi district. And then when you go out there, the secondary schools, you actually realize when you talk to these young girls, because I'd been accompanied by 2 of the university students who were with me, females, and then you reach out there, and then the question comes from a girl of senior 3, and she's saying, you mean we also have girls here who reach Makerere University? So when we are discussing here, this is my 3rd time to actually attend this kind of gathering for UNFPA. But I actually realized I have learned a lot. But now what hits me hard is, out there, like in Eastern Uganda, you never find such people. You have a panel today that has about 4 ladies. You can't find it in Eastern Uganda. Yet that is where the message should be. How do we transfer this kind of gathering to such an area? Thank you.
I think you can. Actually, Michelle is from Eastern Uganda, so there are other sisters and cousins there who can inspire. Come to this.
Thank you very much. Good morning. I'm Ellen Bajenja from Agency for Cooperation in Research and Development. And I would like to congratulate my sons and daughters because I'm in a category of grandparents. So I really congratulate you that you've gone against the tide of the culture to ensure that you are rising above and giving a direction to the youth. I have 2 thoughts. They are not questions. One is around the area of the very good practices that are happening in Uganda today. Sitting here, I've listened to very many young people who have very good ideas. And I was thinking, whose responsibility is it to have a database of these good practices that can later be scaled up? It's very important to see Lady Michelle and Evelyn and Natalie and Ricky doing things, but how are we building on these things as the donor community, as the government? When we go out there with programs, do we build on this? Are we harnessing what we have to try and scale it up if we look at it as a good practice? The second thought comes from what my daughter, Michelle, talked about. She talked about the donor community and talked about in more details, and it got me thinking. And I'm glad to report that as part of the UNFPA, UN Women and Government of Uganda, Ministry of Gender implemented project on addressing gender-based violence, there is a reach out. And I know the country rep and the UNFPA staff who are here, maybe we'll have a chance to talk about it. But there is a reach out already in some of these districts that can be a good opportunity to pick up. And maybe we can learn from this, and with support from UNFPA, try to do an adapted version of a G4G at the lower level, where these different gender groups are coming together and talking about these issues. This is what is supposed to happen.
All right.
I'm very sure we are in the right direction.
Ms. Wajenja, thank you very much. I think I've heard now from about 4 or 5 different people who want to take this kind of dialogue at a lower level. Maybe we can start at a regional level, maybe think about that, and maybe so that it can percolate down to the people. Maybe Kampala, we can come back to it later. But you make a point, I suppose. So go to the next.
Yes, good morning everyone. My name is MC Becca Breaker, a social media marketeer, a peer educator. My Twitter handle is @BeccaBreaker1. Basically, as we young people, we come up with an application called the Health Chat. It's just a group of young peer educators who came up with it. Okay, so you can download it. Whoever is on Google Play Store, you have it. Those of Android, so you can have it right now. You have Wi-Fi. So basically, my question goes to inclusion. As we reach a hand, I started up a project called Sign and Fly with Fly Uganda, and this project specifically is for young people living with impairment. I find it so hard calling them disabled. It is we who are disabled who we think they are disabled. So like we looked around schools with young people with hearing impairment. Those are called deaf. So we found it very hard. We went up to Wakiso, school for the deaf, and it's only one school. So it beat me a time that I saw a problem and I need to address the problem, but I only see one key area to identify or to solve this problem. So my appeal is to the government. Can you really find schools, great schools for this kind of people? We need we say we need education, but we all need equal education. Find schools, create more schools. If UNFPA can do that, please.
So you're saying there should be more schools for people with impairments, so they can also attain education.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. One more person in this group, Mala, you just picked one. I don't know whom you're going to pick. I told you we're going to share that responsibility.
I'm very privileged to get this opportunity. I'm here through Instagram. I follow UNFPA, and I'm so humbled because you guys have included us who don't belong to any organization or whatever, but it's been a free event. And that is why I'm so excited and I'm benefiting. So my point is, we as girls are not taught to be independent right from the grassroots. And so when we come out, we are expected to be perfect and, to paint all this picture that is, that person is successful or what. We do not know what to do. And even our employers, whatever they teach us in school, we have nothing to offer. We do not have the experience to offer. And so we cannot be of value to the employers. We do not blame them. And we still do not blame ourselves somehow because we've just been taught the theory. So that is one side. And to the girls, I hate the word self-pity. Let us get this vice out of us. I am a graduate. I graduated 2017. I did a course in gender and women health. My whole thing is about women and a girl child. And right now, I'm doing fashion and design from my mother. My mother is a single mother, and I learned from her. Let us not be those people who are going to sit down and cry. Like a girl is expected to be helped somehow. When a girl has a business or like is prospering somewhere, they're like, who's behind that? Your guy? No. I mean, a girl can be somewhere by themselves. We face the problems, but we pray and get through them and work.
Okay, thank you very much. There's a lady just in front of you, if you can give her a microphone. And then, if you can make it precise, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Allow me to talk while seated in the interest of time. I'll make two comments. One, that it takes a community to raise a child. Two, charity begins at home. And also the third recommendation where we say we need to take this to the community. But even when we talk about the strong cultural barriers at the community level, I've seen middle-aged women, career women, that these ladies are going to the next level being very tight. How do you raise a child who has value amid these competing priorities and ambitions? And as programmers, as policymakers, we need to start thinking, how do we support them? Because it's also ending into gender-based violence.
Thank you very much. We're going to the last group there. You're going to pick maybe two questions.
Thank you very much. My name is Fiona. I'm an engineer, a transmission engineer with Entrepreneurship Uganda. For me, thank you very much, our panelists. Thank you very much. I'll pick it up from Natalie. I think it's very important how we raise the girls. Let me tell you, self-esteem begins at home. Like she said, I grew up in the same advantaged environment. What my brothers could do, I could do. The same attitude I carried it to school, the same attitude I carried it to work, and that's where I am. But anyway, to the point. Flexibility of our education curriculum to accommodate such dialogues. Like, I believe that we can talk at this level, but if we've had the students here from different universities, if we can involve the stakeholders in the education sector, we have to work in hand with organizations like UNFPA, NTV Uganda, to see that such dialogues begin as early as primary level. And self-confidence is instilled in these kids while young. By the time they come to university, they are the bunch of women you're going to find, and they will not have any problem to bring on anything on their side. Hence, also, the engineering environment, you will agree, there are few girls who graduate. Most of them are leaned out because it starts way back from school. You feel you can do the science courses, they feel they're hard, the girls are mostly in the arts class. That it can change with us, and it can change now.
Thank you very much.
The other thing, the dialogues they've talked about on the regional level, for me, I'm of the view that when these dialogues are taken on the regional level, let's not take Natalie. Let's look out for the women who have worked hard for these regions. If a northerner identifies with a northerner who has made it, it speaks to them more than a westerner going to the northern Uganda to tell them what to do. They will still be biased. They'll feel like you've made it in life because you have the last name and the middle name called Ashaba, Ashanti, so you're not speaking to them. So getting an Okello speaking to an Okello makes more sense. It still feels like if Okello made it from away from those villages and they know their grandmother and their grandparents, they feel belong, they feel they can still make it if they made it. And lastly, innovation using technology to achieve more of these goals. I'll give an example. I have a team, last year we were Tech Women Africa. We had a dialogue in Ghana, and guess what, you guys? We have a tech team. We created a WhatsApp group, just a WhatsApp group. But when these guys are going through elections and they have all these issues, these are national dialogues. But we as women, the women in Africa, we have a group as tech women where we discuss these things. Kenya has a shutdown. We tell the Kenyans, this is how we can go through it. Uganda, we had this in the country. How can we go about it? It has solved so many things. It has exposed us. And also they are able to bring their business across the African continent. I'm in Uganda, but I talked to someone in Senegal. I know what is happening in South Africa. I know what's happening. So I believe as UNFP here and us who are embracing technology, coders are in this house, we can use technology to embrace and drive these things. Right now, social media, someone in the US is able to see us, is able to participate through technology. We have to embrace it. The earlier we do it, the earlier we move.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause. And that lady there is responsible for keeping us on air. So she's an engineer who is responsible for having this broadcast live across Uganda and online. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. My name is Kwenda Caroline from Mantle Foundation, Uganda. I want to talk about the role of the civil society organizations and whoever goes out to talk to the communities and the children. Now, I feel like there's been a lot of misinterpretation about women getting on board. Many people have made it like a war zone. We cannot be in the same space with the boys. We must push them aside so we get there. I want us to know that we cannot move without the support of the other people that are around us. So the organization, the civil society organizations, whoever goes out to the communities and to the children should know that we need everyone on board. The idea of we want women on top and you make it seem like a war zone has put men on the defensive. So some of these things that they do is not actually because they do not know, but they want to take their position also, to defend their position, and that is wrong.
Okay. Thank you very much. I can only take one more. I can see, yes, is it Bizu or no?
Thank you so much. I nearly missed this opportunity. It was going to be so heartbreaking. However, my comment is, I feel a girl or a woman should not think that you have to compromise your integrity to move from one point to another. We've been made to believe that to attain a certain, to get a job or to get someone to help you step up, you need to give in to their demands. We are talking about young boys and girls in villages or what, but we're not looking at employers. You're a young girl, you're from the university, you're looking for a job. We've been made to think that to pass an interview, you have to dress a certain way to look attractive to the employers to be able to be given a job. Most of the young girls are not employed because they refuse to give in to such young men or old men. And to make matters worse, you find that most of these CEOs and employers are men. So you find that because these men are only looking at us as sex objects, we are not able to get the jobs. So as a girl, when you're called for an interview, you're forced to dress a certain way to look attractive, apply lipstick, have your breasts showing or have a dress showing your hips because you want to entice this man to give you a job. No, we have skills. We've gone to universities. You are smart. Don't go in with that mentality. Go in to show skill.
All right.
And you find that most of these beautiful young girls, educated, have resorted to doing jobs like hosting a night in a club. I take a certain picture to attract people to come to the bar. Yet I'm educated, I'm skilled, I have everything it takes to sit in an office and do an office job. We should stop thinking that way, young girls. We are powerful, we have skills, we can do better. I can become an MP tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay, the issue of integrity is so key. I think there shouldn't be anything that should take away our integrity. There's no enough money in the world that can buy anybody's integrity. There shouldn't be. And the issue of networking, looking for the people who are better than us so that you can learn from them is very key. One day, I was in a room where Mr. Patrick Vitature was speaking, and he said, your network is your net worth. Yeah. And I still remember that. The people you associate with, it can be your net worth. If you maybe associate with the people at a certain level, that's your net worth. So we have to improve our net worth by the network that we have. Okay. No, time is not on our side now. But there's this special interest group, I'm told. With all respect, I'm giving you a microphone, and then we shall end from there. Then I will start from Michelle, and we'll come up to Natalie. Please, I'll give you 1 minute, each one of you, to make your concluding remarks, and then I'll invite Mr. Johnson Omolo to conclude after that.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Jackie, and I'm from Mukono. I'm a student as well, and I'm also a business lady, and I'm also a working lady, and I'm as well a mother. So I'd like to talk about one thing. I've had people talking about different things, and that's really good, very interesting. But whatever programs you have, such as UNFPA, NTV, and the likes, do you have inclusion for women with disabilities? Yes, you can have a great program, a very good program in your organization, but remember that women with disabilities have an extra challenge. And so, whenever you make your plans, do you have this in consideration? And then the other thing is information accessing information. Because personally I am deaf, and to access communication, I would need an interpreter. And if whatever program that happens, I will need to have an interpreter. Do you have such programs? And then the other thing is publicity. When you're talking about your programs, do you have means that can accommodate people with disabilities? And the other thing that I would want to talk about from there is reasonable accommodation. For instance, if somebody is coming to a program like this and is using a wheelchair, can they come up here? Can they come through the stairs? These are things that we have to put in considerations, and when it comes to women with disabilities.
Thank you.
We have to talk about reasonable accommodation. Because we have skills as well. We have skills, we have gone to school, we've done, we have a lot of capabilities. And if our potentials are not utilized, then we can't do anything.
All right.
So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. Yes, accessing buildings like these, I don't know, KCCA or whoever it is into the planning, you have to think about that. It can hit you hard, God forbid, when you find that you tomorrow could also, any one of us can be in a wheelchair tomorrow, and yet you are into policy making, and some of these buildings have been allowed to be built without being compliant to the needs of people with disability. So we always have to think about if it could be you, because that can actually be you in a minute.
Thank you very much. I've been asked to usher in the panelists by making the last comment.
No, they've given us some 2 more minutes or 5, so I'll take a few.
Thank you. My name is Sheila Birungi Gandhi. I work as the Executive Director for the AIDS Information Center, but I also happen to be the State Minister for Health for Busoga Kingdom. And I first of all want to appreciate UNFPA for the selection of the panelists and our moderator, the best moderator in the country. And I want to commend the person who is interpreting that I envy his skill. He's super. Thank you very much. I want to make a comment coming from a perspective of being a cultural leader, but also at the same time leading an institution as a civil society organization. We have been working on different programs, citing out programs funded by UNFPA. And we find that the integral approach of programming by UNFPA is a very brilliant idea which we want to sell out to government to pick out. We recently found out that the public needs, the communities need to know that there is a discrepancy between emancipation of women and the neglect of men and their gender roles. You'll find that the public or the communities do not understand the difference between women emancipation and the gender shift. And we found that because men were ignoring mostly their gender roles of taking care of their families, UNFPA with its programmers came up with an approach of male engagement, which we call the Male Engage Agenda, a platform where men are called upon to man up their tasks again, to understand the roles they have to play as men, besides looking at the emancipated women in the background of their households. So I want to call upon leaders and every person working for civil society to ensure that as we speak to the public, we should let the public know that as we emancipate women, we are not shifting roles of men to women. We want men to continue as men with their roles, but also understand and appreciate that women in their background, when they are emancipated, they can contribute to the socio-economic development of the country. Thank you very much. Thank you for
All right.
discussing.
Okay. So we're going to take one more question from here, there, and then another will be. We were given a few more minutes. There's a gentleman here who's had.
Hello, thank you so much. Myself, I'm a law student, and I'm so much concerned that no one is talking about the law, especially when it's concerning women. I did a diploma in law, but while in court, I was so much challenged. Most of the cases we find, it is either a man trying to sell the family land, or a daughter has been raped or defiled, and the man is not so much interested in fighting for the cause of justice. In fact, there are cases where a man is negotiating with the other person who is in court to find a settlement in terms of payment when it is a criminal offense. And I'm happy the Commissioner for Gender is here, and Honorable Dora. Is there a system we can have in place that these cases, when they come up involving families and women, the court system cannot deliver the justice we need? The centers which can give maybe pro bono services are too far away from these women who are rural in their settings. How can we come down to them that we provide alternative ways of how we can settle these costly, very expensive, and time-consuming engagements they do in court? They lose time for being productive at home, at work, at their families. At the end of the day, they still lose out because the man ends up conniving maybe with someone in court or someone in the system, and the lady is left out. Either land is sold or a house is taken.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. The issue of court, I think, is very serious. Even if there's a gentleman here, if you talk about an issue of a rape case of defilement, how do you tell a victim of rape or defilement? You take them to a normal court, and then they have to relive the experience. It is so traumatizing. If you find a lawyer who is going to be asking a young girl or woman to relive the whole experience, probably we need some special courts or things like that, so that people can talk freely and they are not traumatized again. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, Patrick. I hope my voice is loud. I'm Dr. Kirunda Ibrahim, working with World Health Organization as a maternal and newborn quality of care consultant. Thank you so much for organizing such a forum where different generations meet. Patrick hinted on it when he said we've not discussed reproductive health. Some 2 weeks ago, I was in Soga. This is where I'm born from. And what am I seeing in Soga? I'm seeing somebody told me, look, you've forgotten to talk about this school health. Girls here don't go to school just because of some of the reasons hinted on by the panelists, but also poverty. And they told me it's just 1,000 shillings you need to get a girl. Yes. So, back to the topic. The only way to have hopes that women can be empowered and be able to change the social and economic situations is by ensuring that this woman is healthy. We need a healthy woman, and the woman starts from childhood. There is no way we are going to have all these things we're talking about if the woman is not healthy. Already the sustainable development goals empowers and gives hope, because there are different goals that are talking about empowering, fighting against inequities, and ensuring that the women are safe. We need policies that protect the women, that enable them to access funds, and we need women every time. If I ask if you will allow me by show of hand, but this shouldn't be happening now because of time. How many women have screened themselves for cancer cervix? You see, few hands. And the other thing we need is to make sure the women feed well, so that the nutrition, a woman who has fed well is able to pass these good nutrients to the child, who might be a woman or a man in future after birth. And we need to look after this child well, so that he's in school, And the other thing is that they feed well so that they pass on the good genes to the others. So I would like to emphasize that we need a healthier woman if we are to get all these discussions we have been deliberating upon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor. A round of applause to him. The issue of reproductive health is so important. There are some statistics in Uganda that say that every day we lose about 19 women due to pregnancy-related complications. And sometimes we can hide some of these into numbers. But if you look at it, that today there's a family where somebody is mourning the death of a sister, a mother, a wife, or a grandchild, that these cases are real. So let us protect our women. They are our sisters, they are our mothers. In fact, they are our future. There's somebody who had a hand there. Okay. Oh, you're just agreeing. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Nancy Okorejina Sekamate, a student at Makerere University. With the interest of time, I won't go much into what I'm supposed to say, but I'm just grateful for the opportunity of being here and for UNFPA for putting us this dialogue here and bringing us inspiring people and innovative people to talk to us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Now, earlier you raised some questions. I think they're to do with the policy, with the government. I also remember Evelyn Zalong asking, you're talking about the money in the Ministry of Gender, but where is that money? You know, there are so many programs, sometimes maybe Ugandans do not know. So I think I'll need to ask you, the Commissioner, to come back and respond to the issues of the money and the programs and the policies that the government is giving, so that we can have the microphones back to the panelists, and then we shall wind up. Commissioner, if you don't mind, you can come to the podium, or a microphone will be brought to you. Okay, they are bringing a microphone.
So thank you very much, our great moderator for today. And thank you everyone for the questions, the answers. The dialogue has been exceptionally inspirational. I have a lot to share when I get back to the office. Just quickly, in the interest of time, to say what are we doing to, because I had many questions that we're not reaching the grassroots. And actually, every component, every program we have has a component for community engagement. Even the male involvement that you talked about, Madam, we have a male engagement strategy. It's focusing on gender-based violence, but we have put it as one of our key strategies as government. Yeah, so we're working with UNFPA, but it's government-led initiative. But just to say that in these components, we work with all of you. In other words, every single program, like the one I talked about, Uganda Women Entrepreneurship, Youth Livelihood, the social assistance grants for empowerment, we have that community. And what our approach and the strategy we take is to work with community leaders. Who are these? Cultural leaders, faith-based leaders. We have, of course, the staff, the local governments. We have CBOs. We have the media. Also, we have worked a lot with the media. I think you can testify to that. We have cultural leaders. We have all the different aspects of the community are represented, and it is through them that we disseminate this information. We have radio programs, for example, where FGM is practiced. We have community radios. So I'm concerned about Katakwi. We can discuss more and see how these girls who are in school and why they are not getting the information. We also have the structures for women and youth councils. We have the National Women Council and the Youth Council structures. I'm sure you've heard about them. And we're working hand in hand with them to make sure that from the village level up to the national level, the messages that we have as Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development are transmitted through them. Lastly, because we were talking and I could see the panelists, many are in business, we have a very exciting initiative coming on. I'd just like to tell you, it's called the 50 Million African Women Speak Networking Project. This is an online platform project funded by African Development Bank, And we are implementing it as Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, together with the Ministry of East African Community Affairs, and the 3 regional blocks. That is COMESA, East African Community, and ECOWAS for West Africa. So it is, the aim, in short, is to network 50 million African women in business, sharing information and doing exactly what all these wonderful panelists were talking about. Networking, mentorship, where can you get loans, where can you get financing, where can you get training, who is doing what, where. So the program will be hosted by the ministry in collaboration with, we're working with Ministry of Trade and Industry, Private Sector Foundation, Enterprise Uganda. All these other agencies are part of the country management team. And we're working now on the content development. So soon there will be this program which you can access online, and doing a lot of adding to the good things that are being talked about in terms of mentorship, especially for young people. So thank you once again.
Thank you very much. Okay, a round of applause to the Commissioner, and let us now go to Michelle.
Thank you so much.
And from there we will be concluding.
Thank you so much. I'm going to use this time to respond to a few of the inputs and messages that I had from the wonderful plenary. I'll start by addressing the elder, the lady who spoke about donor psychology. I didn't want to leave with a sort of a misunderstanding of which angle was coming from. The foundation that I run does East Africa's largest inclusive fashion show. It was featured on CNN and a number of international media outlets. Now, when I'm talking about donor psychology, whenever we write a proposal requesting for funding, because it's a fashion show, it basically, in essence, is a social space, I am always, most often, referred to the CSR manager. And yet, when my counterparts come in to bring in proposals for fashion shows that are largely harnessed on non-disabled participants, they are sent to the marketing managers. Because the understanding is persons with disabilities are not, say, a group of people who present marketing opportunities. So they are CSR bound. We are sitting in a room here with persons with disabilities from academia, people who are employed, people who actually contribute to the GDP. And yet, most of the people who come for the fashion show. They are people who contribute to the GDP. But the narrative of the donor is that they are not a community where you can market with. They are charity-based. So that was what I was talking about, donor psychology, which leads me to my next point. I've been hearing people talking about community. We need to take this to the community. We need to take this to the community. Well, I'm speaking for persons with disabilities and women with disabilities specifically. Urban spaces are also community spaces for persons with disabilities. They are also. So we need to expand the idea of what community is for persons with disability from a rural space to also an urban space. Then I also wanted to quickly piggyback on the point of the gentleman from Rahul, from Richer Hand, Uganda. He talked about more schools. And this is really great. Of course, we need more special needs schools. I'm not discounting that in any nature. But I'm also wanted to touch on to say that you're talking more about it from an equal opportunity perspective, but equal opportunities doesn't necessarily equate equality. When you think about Rosa Parks in 1955 was on a bus, meaning she had the opportunity to travel. She wasn't walking, she was on a bus. But within that opportunity, she couldn't sit anywhere where she wanted to sit. So we need to look at also the quality of capacity building for persons with disabilities, not just that there are schools. What is the quality of the schools there? When you look at most people, what I'm trying to say is that structural reforms don't immunize social discrimination. And social discrimination is imminent or impacts socio-economic transformation. When you look at people like Nelson Mandela, or you look at people like Gandhi, or you look at people like Martin Luther King Jr., they were educated people. They were not uneducated people. They were lawyers. There were, people in academia, but they didn't have the social leverage to live their lives. And this social leverage is what truly impacts socio-economic transformation. Nelson Mandela did not revolt because he didn't go to school. He revolted because he needed to walk with a pass to wherever he wanted to go. So when the lady was talking about, we also have skills, that's a lady who has been economically empowered. She's gone to school, but she needs to remind you from a social perspective that she also has skills. So we need to redefine how we are setting up policies. Are we coming from a model for disabilities from a medical model, or are we coming from a social model? Thank you very much.
A round of applause for Michelle. Yes, Princess Zalwango.
All right. Thank you very much. I would like to thank UNFPA for this opportunity for me to share my views and for everybody in the audience who are being able to come here. My take on the topics today would be that everybody has been talking about how we are supposed to empower women. For me, I would say there's a huge, big role for the fathers to play. Fathers need to support a girl child, because as women, if you hear that your dad says it's okay for you to be a carpenter, it's okay for you to be a mechanic, that is very powerful. And it shouldn't be our mothers telling us we are beautiful. Our fathers need to tell us we are beautiful. That is very important for the men to be able to support the girl child. The second point will be there is need to create safe spaces for the women to work. In my workspace, in my carpentry shop, I employ, it is a rule, 30% women. I know it's a little bit of a challenging situation because when we say 30% women, but we are one of the best carpentry shops in this country because our finishing is done by women. They pay attention to details and they respect their jobs very highly. Then there's also another point of us creating support networks. Somebody said about a WhatsApp group for the women. We need to create support networks as women. Those support networks is you could find anyone who is in a different field. Right now, my daughter, we work together to be carpenters. I'm a mother as well of two young girls. But during holidays, we are at the workshop to try to create things to show her this is an opportunity that you can be able to do. She wants to be a carpenter, she wants to be Miss Uganda and all those things, but I tell her you can be anything that you want to be. Even if you want to be Miss Uganda while you're carpenter, it is possible. So there's need for us to encourage our girls and encourage girls to be able to do that. Also, the other idea of us having to share stories. There's need to share stories for the success stories of women. That is very, very important for the media, for all platforms to share the success stories so that our girls have people to look up to. I can be like that woman. I can be like anybody. So that is very important. And then the other opportunity, I would advise women, look at all fields as opportunities. Whether you want to be a mechanic, whether you want to be a carpenter, all fields are opportunities, but how do you look at that opportunity and change that as a woman to your own advantage? As me, I was always told, what do I need from a man's field sort of business as a carpenter? But look here, I will tell you right now, many men are scared of me in my carpentry business. I can tell you right now. So we need to create those kind of environments and look at the opportunities that are out there for us to be able to develop the economy of this country. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. If I can pick something from Evelyn, is that she has to go with her daughters in the workshop, and that's an element of apprenticeship. So sometimes we do not want to expose our children to the kind of work that we do. Our brothers from the Asian continents, for them they have learned this. They will go with their children in a shop and then they will teach them, and you'll find businesses moving in from one generation to another. So we need to expose our children to the work that we do, so in that way they are getting apprenticeship, they are getting the skills, learning from the foot of the master, that you are the master because you are the parent of that kid. Yes, rapper.
I'm Papa.
Now you're Papa. I thought this time I had gotten it right.
It's okay. Thank you so much, NTV. Thank you so much, UNFPA. I think it's a blessing for me to be on this panel, and I think it was very strategic that you chose me to be here and to really speak for our young generation. I so much relate to ASP Ogweng because we come from the same area, the same region, and you basically know what happens in the region where we come from. I first want to say this, that you inspire so many of us, and you deserve another round. The question you raised was, how can we bring as many men as possible to be champions and role models? And I think I want to speak about what we are just about to implement with UNFPA. We think that the approach we took to really transform the border industry was just that knowledge gap. We realized people, like the border guys, used to do what they think was right, but then they were not really empowered, they were not sensitive, they were not put in a decision-making position to really realize, like, look, some of these things that you do, like running the traffic light, jumping on the pavement, disrespecting your customers, are actually not good for you as a business person. And if you change this, it could mean a lot to you and to your life and to your future and the future of your children. So what we think right now that we can do, given that I am from the border industry, I'm a former border driver, I really understand and I've seen and witnessed many of the things that have been happening in the border industry. Many of you know the border drivers for being people who are not very friendly to women and young girls. And we think right now that we are taking a special approach because we already empowered them. They know what to do as far as business is concerned. And now we think that we should empower them with knowledge on how to support their own wives, how to support their own sisters, and how to support their own girls and how to raise their girls. And we are working on this initiative with UNFPA. It's in the final discussion. We think that is also going to be a game changer because, as the commissioner said, they're working with like CBOs and all these other organizations. She didn't specifically mention that she's working with the employers, and I think after this we need to have a chat because I have one powerful thing, and that's the game of numbers. Today we're talking about like close to 10,000 drivers, and by the end of this year we're looking at around 30,000 border drivers being part of the platform, employing over 200 Ugandans, and 60% of them being actually young girls. I think we need to really have a discussion and find a way to closely work together to be able to support this community and make it friendly and better for everyone. My friend there asked a question. I think it's called Ayena. I hope I got the name right. He said his question was around inclusion. I think as service providers, as border drivers, we do not discriminate anybody. We so much believe in inclusion. That's why you could see like gender, we're really doing well. I think what we need to do is be able to really like redesign, put a little bit of better designs on our bikes to be able to accommodate other people with disabilities. We find also difficulties because, you know, it's a bike on top of a bike, and it becomes very, very difficult. Some people are already using wheelchairs, and then you have to transport them with like a wheelchair. But then we've had discussions with like their leaders, and we've been very, very supportive where we can, and we promise to always remain very supportive because these are part of us. We as border drivers, I think many of us have also witnessed, or many of you have also witnessed, lots of accidents in the border industry, especially borders being involved, and then the end result is some few borders that we all know has end up becoming victims, or they end up becoming disabled because of this. So we really understand the industry that we are in, and we don't want to think that these people do not belong to us. We want to treat them as brothers, as sisters, and be as supportive as we can, and be as inclusive as we can, because that is what is better for the society that we live in today. A few people mentioned something about mentorship. It's key. It's paramount. We cannot stay away from that. Good thing is we need to speak to people that speak to our needs, that speaks to our interest, And also all of us on this panel, there are a few things we could do. I think many people know me for sharing my story, given that I come from a very humble background. Of course, I'm a complete orphan with no father, no mother. I went to school and stopped in senior 4. But now I've gone back to school and learning as much as I can to be a better person in the society, a better leader. And I think I have taken that oath to be able to share my story. And I look forward to really use the platform like this and others to come when given an opportunity to share my story, to be able to inspire other young people so we can get out of the comfort zone. We stop the waiting that the government is going to do something for us. It's about us that needs to do something for us. We need to fight for the space. Because already, of course, we are in an environment, as entrepreneurs, we are in an environment that things do not really it does not really work for us. But I think we need to prove and make sure that the people in the decision-making position are able to understand, look, initiatives like Safe Border makes a lot of sense. We need to support these young people, give them space, listen to them, and empower them to make them better leaders in the society.
All right. Thank you very much, Ricky. Okay, our team is really almost up. Honorable Dora, very briefly, and then Natalie.
I'll try to be brief, but yeah. I'll speak to 3 aspects. The first aspect is the law. The law is cardinal as a tool for social change, but as you know, if it's not legitimate, it remains hanging. And therefore, we need to make the law legitimate by getting people to understand it, appreciate it, and therefore enforcing it becomes easier. I've partly lived my dream to see many laws which respect women's rights, persons with disabilities' rights put in place. I'm glad to inform you I was behind the Persons Disability Act of 2006, which was signed in record time by the President. I was also behind the Equal Opportunities Commission law, behind the Trafficking in Persons law, female genital mutilation, increasing 45 days to 60 days, and therefore I've lived part of my dream. Now my other dream is to make sure and to see it happen and implemented in the community. Let me just go quickly to reproductive health. I pose a question. If you are raped, would you tell your boyfriend? Would you tell your husband? If you are raped, would you tell your wife? Would you tell your girlfriend? This is a cardinal issue, the issue of stigma. Until we resolve that if, for example, rape happens, you have a safe place to go and report, and action can be taken, we shall be working in vain. So these are some of the unresolved issues. Where do you go? Who do you tell? What is available? It's very important. Finally, secondly, and I'm about to finish, is the issue of affirmative action. I won't leave it on the table. Maybe, Patrick, you'll invite me for another talk. But let me say it very clearly. In the Constitution, affirmative action was supposed to be reviewed after every 10 years. It was reviewed in 2005, and we found that it was necessary to continue. Now, as to whether the people who stay in that office can stay for more than 2 terms, or 3 terms, or 4 times, is an issue for debate. Because look, the issue of discrimination has been going on for generations. Can you do away with it by serving 2 terms? When you are there for 2 terms, you are learning the ropes. If you go into the constituency seat, will you make it? The point of affirmative action was supposed to have mechanisms in place to ensure that the women who have served are able to graduate or move on, not even graduate, move on to the constituency level. But is it happening? If in Parliament you only have, they said 9%, 8% who have come in on the constituency like I did, it means that the fatality level, the incidence of you failing to make it to Parliament is very high. So you take a risk, and a very serious risk. So we need to go back to our parties. Within the parties, can we have safe seats? Within our parties, can we find a way of getting affirmed and supported? And at large, why are less women voting than men? it's very important. I heard of percentages which alarmed me. So there's work for us to do, and I don't have a clear answer. It's easier said than done, but really if you want to serve, there are certain challenges and certain mechanisms that need to be put in place. Finally, when I saw that theme, two books came to my mind, two issues came to my mind. One, the book written by His Excellency President Obama, The Audacity of Hope. And the other one was I Have a Dream, Martin Luther King. So I would like to part with these few words. First of all, you need to be authentic. I'm now talking to the youth as an elder. You need to be bold. You need to be audacious. You need to take action because there are so many dreams and they're in the graveyard. They never come to be. So you need to take action. And finally, I want to stay with this. You need to stay hungry. If you have time, go and read a book. I read a lot of books. Who Moved My Cheese? You will read it in 1 hour, and one day we shall discuss it. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
First, I want to answer the question from the lady over here. I think it was a very important question and a big issue that's very relevant today about how husbands do not support their wives who are working and do everything that they can to refuse them to work and keep them in the home. My question is, if women can evolve from being mothers only and sitting in a home and being able to work and do it at the same time, why can't men evolve too? If we're able to provide for ourselves and our families, as our leading officer has said, while the men are drinking or in sports betting clubs, we're paying school fees, we're paying for food, we're handling everything. Why can't men evolve to do more in the home as well? Sheryl Sandberg is the CEO of Facebook, and she wrote a book called Lean In. It's a book I really related to because I understood that women around the world are having the same challenges in the workplace and in the home. You either have a husband who, when you get home, is complaining, the children need this, they're making noise, no one has cooked dinner, where is this, what is going on? Or you have a husband who got home before you and helped the kids with their homework and started making dinner and made sure that your day is easier. And she said that that person that you choose as a woman is going to be the biggest impact on your career. That's the most important decision you will make for your career as a woman. You're going to have a supportive spouse or you will not have one. And this is one of the reasons that when women start having children, they start dropping out of the workplace. When women want to start a business, their husbands are the ones refusing. They're the ones pulling implants out of their arms. It's a challenge that we have, and it's a question for men. If we have evolved to the position that we can lead companies, we can work, we can be politicians, why can't you do more at home? These children are yours as well. That house is yours as well. We're not born knowing how to cook. We also have to learn. A man can learn how to do that. And it's about the community of men and the stigma. You are not less of a man because you spend more time with your children. Women are spending more than 30 hours a week, almost times 5, he was insinuating, and men are spending maybe 12. Why? When you live in that same home, you sleep the same amount of hours. Those are your children as much as they are the ladies. So I think it's something that men also have to look to themselves. If we have evolved over the last 100 years as women, that we are now the first generation of women that are encouraged to do whatever we want, we can be anything. That same position applies to men. You can be anything as well. You can do more. You can be more. You can be more of a man and be there for your family. It's also something that's commendable and not something that should be stigmatized or you should get called names for it. But that's something that men together as a community have to also get up and start moving. You can't stay in the same place for hundreds of years. We have always been like this and we will never change. While the women are changing all around you, it's also time for men to get up and stand and to change.
Thank you very much. A round of applause to the panelists this morning and yourselves. I think I'm more hopeful than ever today, hearing from the panelists and you that our country is in a right direction. That if we can dare to dream, if we can build networks, and that will give us a good net worth, and that if we can maybe, how do I say this, die empty. If there are books that we need to write, let us write them. If there are businesses that we need to start, let us start them. If there's anything that we need to do, let us do it so that when we are out of this, we say, so and so did ABCD and, exhausted all the opportunities that God gave them. Thank you very much. You've been such a wonderful audience, wonderful plenary. I hope it has added value in our understanding of our situation, what we need to do for the young people, for the next generation. Allow me to invite the country rep for UNFPA come and give us concluding remarks, and that will make it a wrap for us.
Ladies and gentlemen, my task is both easy and difficult. It's difficult to follow such brilliant panelists. And I want to thank every one of you individually, really, because you have indeed been authentic, you've been bold, you are audacious, and you keep on being hungry and make us hungry too for your stories. So you are my role models. Thank you very much. I want to thank NTV, starting with the Director General, Johnson Omolo, but also Patrick Kamara, an absolutely wonderful moderator, and Mala, who's been emceeing and running around with the microphone. Can we please give a round of applause to them? I want to thank all of you for having come here, especially His Excellency the Ambassador of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, who's with us and who's actually sat with us the whole day, so thank you very much, and my colleagues from the United Nations, also the Ambassador of the Aga Khan Development Network, who's been with us. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to tell you that, you know, as we prepared for this generation for generation dialogue, we wanted to give justice to our ability to have evidence and to speak figures, facts and figures. And I just want to remind you that this is what we summarize in this. This is a little technical brief that gives you everything about today's dialogue. But one of the questions that I was asked, and that I keep on being asked, is that, now, okay, so that's very nice, you did this, now what? Well, the first thing that we did from the first generation for generation dialogue is evidence to action. We really summarized the discussions, but we gave specific importance to the policy recommendations that were being made. And we invite you to tell us how we should take this forward. We have a few ideas on how we make this mechanism more than just an event, but that we actually get these voices and that evidence, that passion that comes out of these generation for generation dialogues, so that we get that to the policy and to the decision makers. And yes, we will take the generation for generation dialogues, as you say, to the community outside Kampala, into different districts. But I also want to say that one of our activities that we're having, or one of our initiatives, is Live Your Dream Moment, where we interact, where we facilitate a dialogue between celebrities or icons and young people, so that they are told and they're inspired by what was the moment, what was the tipping point in their lives that made them who you are. And I want to announce that next week we will launch the first corporate collective against gender-based violence. This brings the biggest companies, private companies of Uganda, together to say no against gender-based violence, so that we can set the tone for the government and that we can set the tone for the country. And I really want to thank in advance Patrick Pitaturi, who has agreed to convene this very important collective. Now, when I mention these ideas and these initiatives, it's really to say that they were all designed, conceptualized, and implemented by our young people. Our young people, meaning our social change entrepreneurs. And so it takes me to the next point. When it comes to youth empowerment and having young people come to us, sit with us, work with us, we really mean it. And we mean the same thing when it comes to young people or older people with different abilities. UNFPA is your home. And UNFPA is the home to talk and to address difficult issues. Family planning, reproductive health, abortions, menstrual health. This is what UNFPA is about. And we will not stop. We will not stop until we have these rights. Because these are not women's rights only, these are human rights, because they are made accessible for every single Ugandan girl and for every single Ugandan woman. And I want to thank again the ambassador of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, because we are about to embark on an ambitious program with the Kingdom of the Netherlands to support us to deliver that package of rights that women need to fulfill their potential in Uganda. Now this takes me to the last one, and that's the most pleasant remark that I like to make. Leadership is in action. And I've witnessed once again that leadership in my office has resulted in this, as it results in everything else that we do. So I want to recognize my colleagues at UNFPA. You recognize them mostly by their nice white shirts. Sometimes people, when I wear them, they say, "Which cook are you in?" So they think it's a cooking gear. But so my colleagues, please stand up. And among them, Martha Songa, who's once again led this Generation for Generation dialogue. So thank you very much. And having said that, I wish you a nice day. Thank you again for coming.
All right. A round of applause once again. I was expecting my general manager to speak, but I don't know whether you didn't want to disorganize the protocol, or he can allow a few words, since you gave us an opportunity to put us on air, and perhaps after your word, then we can go off air after that. I mean, not off air really, but continue with the normal programming of NTV Uganda.
Thank you, Patrick. UNFPA Country Rep, Mr. Nancy Benella, ambassadors present, ladies and gentlemen, in your respective capacities, as NTV Uganda, we are proud to be a partner of UNFPA. We promise to continue holding more dialogues with UNFPA and the wider UN family. This is an event that is of national importance. One thing that I expected Mr. Lane to talk about is reproductive health, where UNFPA is a big player. Quality of education, quality of life is dependent on the family that you have. Uganda's population is growing slightly above 2.5% per year. More, he says more. And that number is a number where rural households struggle to offer quality education for their children, quality of life for their children, and together through dialogue, we believe there will be a way forward around this by the authorities concerned. Madam Commissioner, we are grateful to have you here. Ministry of Gender is a big partner in this event. The minister told me she was away. We are happy to have you here, and we hope you will share the feedback from this dialogue with the minister to influence policy changes and adjustments that are necessary to ensure that women play a great role in Uganda's socio-economic transformation. I thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Thank you very much. And that brings us to the end of the Generation for Generation dialogue this year. We have just seen that we are a great country with good people, and I think we have a great future ahead of us. Good afternoon, and God bless.
NTV, turning on your world.
I'm Sorin, the Merchant of Success, your motivational speaker, human resource trainer, life, career, and business coach, and CEO of Success Africa. In today's episode, I want us to talk about the idea of you always treating people right when you're going up. When I was young, I saw an image. It was some old man climbing the ladder. It was, an old art piece, some possibly hand-drawn. I don't remember exactly, but that was many, many years ago, possibly about 20 years ago, thereabouts. And, there was an image, and there was saying something along the lines of, treat people well when you're going up, because you'll find the same people coming down. And there were people down, and this guy was climbing up the ladder. And I thought that was a brilliant imagery, because in life there are ups and downs. When you're down, next level is up. When you're up, hey, guess what? You'll go high and then reach a certain level and then come back down.